Broadcasting Corporation. Welcome to today's proceedings of the Senate on this Thursday, when the senators will be debating on a number of motions, among them the adoption of the report of the Mediation Committee on the Irrigation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2017. There will also be a resumption of debate on the waiver of interest on loans to graduates by the Higher Education Loans Board, or otherwise known as HELB. This motion was moved by the Honorable Senator Abdullahi Ali, that aware that the Higher Education Loans Board has for over the last 2 decades become the leading financier of higher education in Kenya, whose mandate is to source funds and lend them to affordable or as affordable loans, bursaries, and scholarship to students pursuing higher education in recognized institutions. Cognizant that the Ministry of Education announced that the government has lost 7.2 billion shillings through people defaulting payment on loans issued by HELP, translating to 74,692 graduates who have defaulted the loan payment. Noting that measures were taken to enhance the HELP loan recovery process, which included a 6-month waiver of accumulated interest and penalties, and working with law enforcement officers to make sure the defaulters who are employed pay back the loans. The member is concerned that there are graduates from institutions of higher learning who have not been gainfully employed for many years after graduation and are therefore burdened with the loans that have accumulated interest and penalties that they have no means to repay. Further concerned that when beneficiaries fail to remit their monthly installments for more than 3 months, HELP reports them to the Credit Reference Bureau, preventing them from accessing loan facilities with any financial institution in Kenya, accessing employment opportunities in the government and major private and publicly listed companies, and the loan guarantors are pursued and forced to service the HELP loan. Now, therefore, the Senate recommends that the Ministry of Education and HELP institutes a 6-month full waiver of all the interest and penalties accrued, including the lifting of Credit Reference Bureau blacklisting for defaulters who are willing to repay their loans in entirety within the 6-month period, and 2, embarks on a 45-day sensitization exercise preceding the waiver, no later than 90 days after the passage of this motion. The balance here is 2 hours, 3 minutes, and this motion was last discussed or debated yesterday, that is Wednesday, 3rd July 2019. The Honorable Senator Isaac Mura also has a motion in the order of business, and his motion regards the renaming of Murang'a University of Technology to Kenneth Matiba University of Technology. Senator George Kaniri from Vihiga County also has a motion here, and it's on the creation of support services for members of the disciplined forces and their families. The Senate calls upon the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government, in partnership with the Ministry of Defense, to establish counseling and support centers in all premises housing disciplined forces and provide mandatory counseling to all service personnel and their families of those currently serving and those who may have been killed in line of duty. Senator Sylvia Kasanga also has a motion, and the motion is on the enhancement in allocation of research funds towards higher learning. As well, this afternoon there are statements which will be issued this afternoon. The Chairperson, Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, will issue a statement relating to the activities of the committee. The Chairperson Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Affairs will also do the same. He will be issuing a statement relating to the activity or activities of the committee. If you're just joining us, we are getting ready for business. This afternoon there is some activity at the door. The maze followed by the Deputy Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki. My name is Edward Kabasa. We'll hand you over so that you can follow these proceedings courtesy of the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Good afternoon.
Tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, tukusihi ututazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri yetu. Tukuomba utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi hii yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Senate Majority Leader. Deputy Majority Leader. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Senate Chairperson Mediation Committee on the Irrigation Bill. Not present. Senator Nyamunga. Not present. Next order.
Order number 7, statements.
Order Senators. Statements pursuant to Standing Order 51(1)B. Chairperson, Committee on Agriculture. Not present. Chairperson, Committee on Devolution. Senator Kenywa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Statement relating to activities of the Senate Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations pursuant to Standing Order 51-1B for a period commencing on 12th February to 30th June 2019. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 51-1B to make a statement on activities of Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations for a period commencing on 12th February to 30th June 2019. Mr. Speaker, sir, during the period under review, the committee held a total of 12 sittings, considered 3 bills, 4 statements, and committee also had 4 engagements with stakeholders. In respect to bills, the following were considered. First, the Assumption of Office of the County Governor Bill, Senate Bill number 1 of 2018. 2, the County Government Amendment number 2, Bill Senate number 7 of 2017, and County Government Amendment Bill Senate Bill number 11 of 2017. On the Assumption of Office of the County Government Bill 2018 on February 12, 2019, the bill was referred back to the National Assembly with amendments. The committee considered the amendments of the National Assembly to the bill and agreed to all of them. The bill was subsequently passed by the Senate and was assented to on 13th May 2019. With regard to County Government Amendment number 2, 2017, which was sponsored by Senator Mtula Kilonzo Jr. on 15th May 2019, the committee considered the amendments of the National Assembly to the bill. The amendment was subsequently rejected by the Senate and the bill proceeded to mediation. With regard to County Government Amendment Bill 2017, which was sponsored by the Senate Majority Leader, the committee reviewed the amendments of the National Assembly to the bill and agreed with all amendments to the bill. However, the Senate rejected the amendments of the National Assembly and the bill proceeded to mediation. Mr. Speaker, sir, regarding statement pursuant to Standing Order 48-1-4, 4 statements were referred to the committee during a period under review. The statements were sought by Senator Johnson Sakaja, Senator Dr. Agnes Zani, and Senator Mohammed Faki. Senator Sakaja sought a statement regarding the proper constitution of the Nairobi City County Government. The committee met with the Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko on 10th April 2019 regarding the issue. The committee resolved that in order to address the matter for prosperity, it was necessary for the Senate to expedite the consideration and passage of the County Government Amendment Bill, Senate number 11 of 2017, sponsored by the Senate Majority Leader, in order to address this lacuna. Senator Dr. Agnes Zani sought 2 statements from the committee, one on the policy on transfer of functions to counties and the other in the policy on devolved system of government. A meeting between the committee and the ministry is scheduled to be held in July to consider the issue raised in the statement. Noting that the statement raised weighty issues on the implementation of the devolved system of government, the committee shall extend an invitation to all senators to attend the meeting. Senator Mohammed Faki sought a statement regarding the acrimonious relationship between the Mombasa County Assembly and the Mombasa County Executive. The committee considered the matter and met the Governor of Mombasa County on 18th March 2019 and the Speaker of Mombasa County Assembly on 21st March 2019. Mr. Speaker, Senator Alfred Outa sought a statement on the closure of bank accounts of the Kisumu Urban Project. This statement was committed to the committee on 10th June 2019. The committee is currently considering this statement. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to petition, the committee has reviewed 2 petitions in the period under review. The committee reviewed a petition by Moses Wanjala Lukoi regarding corruption and violation of constitution and the law by the county government of Bungoma. The petition was committed to the committee on 13th June 2019. The committee is currently considering the petition. I want to report to you, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we met the petitioner today. The committee reviewed a petition by Senator Samson Cherargei on behalf of petitioners from West Pokot regarding the absence of Deputy Governor of West Pokot County. The petition was committed to the committee on 13th June 2019. The committee is currently considering the petition. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee met with 4 stakeholders during a period under review. On 14th March 2019, the committee met with officials from the Ministry of Devolution and Semi-Arid on the fate of 52 orphans resulting from Soy Dam disaster. The ministry informed the committee that they were responsible for the immediate services following the disaster and that the matter had been referred to the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection and that the children have been enrolled in schools. On 26 to 27 April 2019, the committee jointly with the Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights met with the Council of Governors to discuss various issues on devolution and specifically the clawing back of devolved function by national government. It was resolved that a retreat between the Senate Liaison Committee and the Committee of Governors Liaison Committee be held at appropriate time to further consider the matter. The committee also met with the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee on 14 March 2019 on issue to do with the asset and liabilities of the county. At the end of the meeting, it was resolved that the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee would submit to the committee reports on assets and liability specific to each county. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee intends to carry out the following key activities during the next quarter. The committee has scheduled visits to the following counties: Laikipia, Nyandarua, Nakuru in July 2019, Mombasa, Kilifi, and Kwale also in July 2019, and Machakos, Makueni, and Kitui in August 2019. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee will be holding a workshop with the Council of Governors and Ministry of Devolution and Semi-Arid on the challenges counties are facing and the clawback of devolved functions. And the committee also intends to have a meeting with the Ministry of Devolution and Semi-Arid on regional economic blocks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Senator Kenya. What is it, Senator Wetangula?
Mr. Speaker, while I thank the chair for the statement, it is a tradition in this House, Mr. Speaker, and as a matter of courtesy, that when a committee is engaged in dealing with a petition from a particular county, the committee does invite the senator that represents the county in issue so that such a senator can be able to attend and participate in the proceedings. This is what we do in our finance committee. This is what we do in our committee on defense and foreign. I'm surprised, Mr. Speaker, I've been waiting to be invited by the committee in the event they listened to this petition from Bungoma that raised some very serious, weighty issues of governance, probity, financial management, and so on. And the chairman says that they have today been hearing the petition, and little do they have the courtesy of inviting the distinguished senator for Bungoma to join them in hearing a petition concerning the management of devolved resources and affairs in the county that I represent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kenya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to take full responsibility. It was a mistake, but Mr. Speaker, I must have been overtaken by events because of what happened in Taita Taveta, Mr. Speaker. So I take responsibility, and I'm very sorry. It will not happen again in future.
And what will you do about it?
I commit, Mr. Speaker, to give all the documentation that the petitioner present to the committee so that we can have a look with him so that he can...
You are still considering the petition, right?
Yes.
You are directed to immediately get in touch with the senator for Bungoma and agree how you would want to participate in your hearings. Order senators, as a matter of good manners, protocol, and practice, every time you are hearing a matter, including petitions emanating from a particular county, committees are directed to engage with the senator representing that county. The same applies to what I directed yesterday. Committees visiting counties. It is very untidy for a senator of a particular county to hear that his own colleagues are in his own county and he has no idea what they are coming for and what they are coming to do. It's unacceptable. It's not good practice at all. And this not applies just to this house, but to the practice of parliaments around the world. In fact, even if you're going to attend a wedding or in a colleague's place, it's just good manners, okay? They don't need to be there. They don't need even, but it's just good manners to just call your friend, your colleague, and say, I have a social function within this corner, so that they don't hear from their own constituents that your colleague was here and, did ABCD. Okay, so Senator Kinyua and all the other chairpersons, please comply.
I'm so obliged, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. What is it? You are on a point of order, Senator Ochilo Ayako, right?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, regarding the last point you have made about visiting, even on a wedding, in a colleague's terrain or turf, Mr. Speaker, there is a personal experience I've had. There are political formations in this country. I don't want to name them. Their names may create acrimony in this house. You find yourself and the party leadership in some part of the world where the colleague there also belongs to a different formation. And I can see Malala is nodding in acquiescence. Mr. Speaker, it's very difficult to notify such colleagues because even when they take the platform, they rarua you vibaya sana, Mr. Speaker. So this issue of Kieleweki and Tanga becomes a challenge, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. It's actually an act of courtesy. As I said, the senator doesn't need to attend because they will be engaged, they could be engaged elsewhere, they would have had prior things, and it's impossible sometimes to be present whenever you are hosting visitors all the time. However, it is not good manners to go to a colleague's jurisdiction and they are not aware. It doesn't look healthy. What is it, Senator Malala?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the same issue, I'd like to join my colleague, Senator Ochilo Ayako, on the same, because, Mr. Speaker, some of us are having presidential ambitions, and we traverse the whole country. Mr. Speaker, it is cumbersome for us to contact every senator we go in their counties, Mr. Speaker.
For example, did you say it's impossible to conduct?
Yeah, it is cumbersome. Mr. Speaker, we are many of us who are aspiring to be presidents, like my colleague, Senator Wetangula, has been in Kakamega severally, and he has not conducted me, Mr. Speaker. So I think it's not...
Order. Senator Malala, don't try to belittle this matter. And I think the chair was not cracking a joke. It is good manners. Let me repeat once again. This is a house of, we have our own traditions and protocols and respect. And it's not about Kenya, all over the world. Anytime you're visiting your colleague's jurisdiction, please, it's good manners to inform them. And I don't think we should stretch it beyond that. It's good manners, they know. You can imagine, for example, if the president of Kenya here, there is a president of a foreign country on holiday in some corner of this country and he doesn't know. It's not official. Yeah, but and maybe I can allow Senator Wetangula, you seem to have information, but who are you informing? Informing the House.
Mr. Speaker, informing the House.
Yes.
As a matter of international protocol, under the Geneva Conventions, when a president, for example, of Kenya, is flying from Nairobi to London, when he flies over South Sudan, you send a cable that, Your Excellency, my brother, I'm passing over your territory. When you fly over Egypt, you do the same. And every other country you overfly as a head of state, you are obligated as a matter of international protocol good behavior, and good manners, as you have said, Mr. Speaker. So if it can happen to heads of state, who are we lesser mortals as senators not to inform each other?
Absolutely. That is the Kenyan former foreign minister speaking. Very well. Thank you, Senator Wetangula. Let's not stretch this matter beyond that point. Senator Pareno, is it unique? Do you have some unique point of order?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Earlier on, you had advised, rightly so, that when there is a matter is before a committee, then they call in the elected senator. I wanted to ask whether it is in order that they invite some of these counties have more than one senator. Like Kajiado has 3.
Order.
So you will be discriminating against the nominated
Senator
senators.
Pareno. Order. Senator Pareno, I'm sure, being a lawyer, you have read the Constitution. If a senator or other county has more than one senator coming from that county, the Constitution says there is the head of delegation, who is the elected senator, and there are members of delegation, who are the other senators who are nominated. So once the head of delegation has been informed, it is upon the head of delegation to do housekeeping. You cannot impose that to chairpersons of committee. It is upon the head of delegation, because also the converse is also to be considered, which is, it is also not right for the committee or the chairperson to inform a member of a delegation when the head of delegation is not aware. So let's not, I think it's a straightforward matter. If you are visiting, for example, Nyandarua County, it doesn't matter whether there are 10 senators from Nyandarua County, the head of delegation is Senator Mwangi Githiomi. Once he is informed, it's up to the senator to now do the internal housekeeping matters. And there's also good manners, even as a head of delegation, to also inform your colleagues. Because when it comes to voting and you are not available, you rely on them to stand in for you. So it's also good practice that they know. And on that note, that matter lies there. Order. Senator Pogisho, what is it?
Speaker, just because you have brought this matter to a close, I just wanted to add a little value to it by the fact that the secretariat of these committees, Mr. Speaker, should write to every member of the various counties where they are going, if the chair might not forget. Well, because if they are organizing a trip, it's obviously a very elaborate arrangement. And so the invitation should be able to come through. Mr. Speaker, West Pokot has been visited, sometimes under very interesting circumstances. And you just wish that another matter, Mr. Speaker, which you need to write to. For example, Mr. Speaker, a committee which is not involved in health, they are supposed to do roads, Mr. Speaker. Then they go into a county and do health visits. They should also inform the chair of health, the relevant chair, Mr. Speaker. So that becomes a bit more cumbersome than somebody has been trying to say here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. I'm sure every committee knows their mandate. Stick to your mandate. The only way you can collaborate with other committees is when the House, through the chair, requests committees perhaps work together for certain related matters. Stick to your mandate. If you're visiting a certain county, it's not a difficult issue. Just inform your colleague. It's a very straightforward thing. You know, and it could even be out of the country and unreachable. Text. At least there is evidence you send an SMS, meaning you tried your best. But let's leave it there. Thank you, Senator Kenywa. Statement C. Chairperson, Education. Not present. Senator Professor Ongeri, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Relating to the activities of the Standing Committee on Education, pursuant to Standing Order 51B, for the period from 1st January to 30th of June 2019. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 51B to make a statement of the activities of the Standing Committee on Education for the period commencing 1st January to 30th of June 2019. Mr. Speaker, during the period under review, the committee held a total of 18 sittings, considered 1 petition, 1 motion, and 32 statements, and has undertaken county visits in 2 counties, namely Wajir and Uasin Gishu. The committee also held 2 engagements with stakeholders. Mr. Speaker, in the period under review, there were no bills referred to the committee. Regarding statements pursuant to Standing Order 48-1, 23 statements were referred to the committee during the period under review. We have received 20 responses from the Cabinet Secretary to the statements sought. While considering the responses received, the committee found some of the responses to be inconclusive, while others elicited supplementary questions. The committee has therefore invited the Cabinet Secretary to a meeting with the committee on 4th of July, that's today, 2019. The committee shall extend an invitation to all senators of the meeting. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, we held that meeting today morning, a very elaborate meeting for almost 3 hours, and we were able to go through a raft of those issues that have been raised and canvassed through the member senators of this assembly. One of the statements requested of the committee was the alarming rate of teenage pregnancies in schools, which was requested by Senator George Kaniri. Pursuant to Standing Order 216 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Honorable Speaker allowed the committee to jointly consider the statement with the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. The committees engaged various stakeholders on 30th March 2019 and will be tabling a report on their findings in the Senate. And indeed, again this morning, we did go through that teenage pregnancies in schools, and we will be incorporating part of the additional responses to this committee, to the plenary. The committee also considered a statement requested by Senator Moses Wetangula on the digital literacy program. In so doing, it emerged that this program had been moved from the Ministry of Education to the Ministry of Information and Communication, which organized an awareness workshop for parliamentarians on the digital literacy program from 9th to 10th of May 2019 in Eldoret. The visit included a tour of the factory where the laptops are assembled and visits some schools where the digital literacy program had been rolled out. The committee established that the program had not been implemented in most schools and that generally the program had not been well executed. Further, few teachers had been trained on the subject and most of the gadgets were faulty and there were few officers available to repair them. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the period under review, the committee considered 1 petition by Dr. Eric Kinyanjui concerning the review of the basic education curriculum framework by the Ministry of Education, which was committed to the committee on 27th of March 2019. The committee held a meeting on 16th of May 2019 and resolved to invite the petitioner, the Cabinet Secretary, and the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development on 4th of July 2019 to further consider the petition. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, the petitioner did appear today. The Cabinet Secretary also appeared today, and will be giving an additional report on this particular petition. Mr. Speaker, sir, with respect to country visits, as honorable senators will recall, following a motion to assess the status of education in the northern Kenya region by Senator Abdullahi Ali, who is also a member of this committee, the Senate resolved that our committee inquires into the challenges facing the education sector. The committee therefore undertook a country visit to Wajir County on 1st of April 2019. During the visit, the committee visited various learning institutions such as Wajir School for the Deaf, Wajir High School, Furaha Day Secondary School, Holdam Model ECD Center, Al-Furqan Private School, both primary and secondary, and Wajir Vocational Training Center. During the visit, the committee held a meeting which brought together all key education stakeholders in the county. And indeed, that was a very lively session, engaging the public and also the key stakeholders. Among the key findings was that there was need to sensitize all stakeholders on the new competence-based curriculum. It was also established that there were inadequate teaching and learning materials in most of the learning institutions, shortage of infrastructural and sanitation facilities, and shortage of teaching staff. The committee is finalizing its report for tabling in the Senate as well. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the period under review, our committee experienced challenges occasioned by the transition in the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology from the former Cabinet Secretary, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, to the current Cabinet Secretary, Professor George Magoha. The transition adversely affected the execution of our committee's work, particularly with regard to statements requested of the committee. I'm happy to report that we have now scheduled a meeting with the Cabinet Secretary to address the outstanding business, which we did today. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the new quarter, our committee will be interrogating the following matters: the status of implementation of the 100% transition rate policy from primary to secondary schools. 2, the new competence-based curriculum. 3, assessment of the status of education at ECD and polytechnic level through country visits. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Briefly, this is the report that I want to table before this August House.
Very well, Senator Yako. Brief, very brief. We have so many statements today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for an opportunity to support this statement. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Education is doing a tremendous job for which they deserve accolade. Just want to say that in their next session, they should look at university courses. There are many parents who are spending a lot of money paying for school fees for engineering courses that are not accredited. I have in mind Technical University in Mombasa, and there are many parents who have students in first, second, third year who do not know whether at the time their children graduate, they will be accredited. So I want to encourage them to look at everything, and this in particular, I beg to support.
Thank you. I'm sure the committee has noted. Senator Maruma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. The Education Committee is doing a very good job. However, up to now, there is a statement that I have not received the response to from, I think, February or March.
Which one?
About the appointment of Vice Chancellor for Taita Taveta University.
Professor Ongeri, Senator.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Speaker. The appointment was on the schedule for discussion this morning, but unfortunately the agenda was so long we were not able to reach there. In good time, we have already invited the CS Education, Professor Magoha, to appear before us again within a short period of time. We'll be giving him the time when he will appear again to prosecute that matter.
Senator Maruma, what is it again?
Mr. Speaker, when the CS and his officers came here today, I had a chance of checking with the clerk if that question or statement has had a response. The truth is that up to now, it is indicated that there is no response.
Order, Senator. The chairman has said, has told the House that they had wanted to have the matter dealt with. The agenda was too long, and it will be dealt with in the next meeting. That is what the chairperson has said. Very clear. Thank you. Thank you, Senators. I think we will not take all the observations and comments because we have so many. This is the end of a quarter, so we have so many statements today, and the statement hour is almost 2/3 gone. And therefore, unless it's something burning, I will have to dispense with the Education Committee. But allow me, honorable senators, to recognize visitors. These are students and teachers from 3 schools who are in the gallery at the moment. The first one is Kiwanjandege Primary School in Laikipia County. The second one is Mount Kenya Academy from Nyeri County. And the third one is students and teachers from Nyakiambi Secondary School, Nakuru County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to all of them. And on my own behalf and on behalf of the Senate, I wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Very quickly, 1 minute, Senator for Laikipia.
Asante sana Bwana Spika. Nataka kujumuika nawe kuwakaribisha wanafunzi wote walioko katika seneti yetu. Kwanza kabisa nataka kusema ya kwamba shule ya msingi ya Kiwanjandege ni shule ambayo imebobea sana, ambayo sisi wenyewe tunasema ya kwamba tunaiangalia kwa sababu itaenda mbali. Wamebombea, wanaendelea kufanya vizuri. Wazazi pamoja na wanafunzi ni watu waliojitolea mhanga. Kwa hivyo sisi tunategemea wale wanafunzi na unajua watakuwa viongozi wa kesho. Mimi nataka kuambia wanafunzi wa shule ya msingi ya kutoka Kiwanjandege ya kwamba mmekuja hapa, mmeona vile viongozi hapa Senate wanavyofanya mambo yao kujadili. Wanajadili kwa weredi ambao ni wa hali ya juu. Mimi vile ambavyo ningependa kuambia na hata wanafunzi wale wengine walioko hapa, mimi nataka kuwatakia kila laheri kwa masomo yenu na muweke masomo mbele kwa sababu masomo ndio uti wa mgongo wa maendeleo katika nchi yetu. Spika wetu aliyoko hapa, yeye ni mtu aliyebombea na mkibombea mtakuwa spika na hata sio spika peke yake, mtakuwa hata marais. Kwa hivyo sisi tunawatakia kila laheri na mkirudi nyumbani mwasalimie wenzenu na muambie yale mliona. Nasema asante sana Bwana Spika.
Very well. The Senator for Laikipia County is perhaps the only senator outside the Coast region who addresses this House in very fluent Kiswahili and also very fluent English. I said perhaps. Very well. Senator for Nyeri, would you want to say something? Your students are here from Mount Kenya Academy, Nyeri County. 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start by also saying I've noted that I'm happy that even Laikipia, the school Kiwaja Shadega in Laikipia has come here, and we have Mount Kenya Academy in Nyeri. And I want to say to the students that keep your good work. This is one of the best schools in this republic, Mount Kenya Academy. It was started by a family of Mr. Mwangi, and it has excelled in this country and has put a lot of people. My advice to the children in Mount Kenya Academy, who don't happen just to be from Nyeri. This school admits children from all over Kenya, you know, of all tribes in this country. It is actually a a multi-tribal school, because in Nyeri we believe in others. We believe in cooperating with others. And this school, we are extremely proud about it. And I would wish the students keep up that banner, and we in Nyeri will do all that is necessary to assist these children to achieve their goal. And one day, they should be in this house actually articulating the issues of Nyeri.
Thank you.
At large.
Thank you, Senator Maina Kirinyaga of Nyeri County. Senator for Nakuru County, you have a minute.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I also rise to welcome the students, those from my county, Nakuru County, Nyakiambi Girls Secondary School, as well as the ones from Laikipia and Nyeri. As you visit us here today, I hope you are inspired to dream that once you're done with school, which I'm sure you'll work very hard to perform very well, you will then become anything that you would want to become, from the president of this republic to a senator here, to a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, whatever, a teacher, and any other career that you would want to pursue. It was also quite relevant, Mr. Speaker, that the Committee on Legal, the Committee for Education, and I think we had the report from Professor Ongeri, and we are all quite a bit concerned as far as the stability of our education system. We need to know what to expect, what's going on. The students and the teachers need to understand at what point are the exams going to be carried out, what the curriculum is. So by just hearing that the Committee on Education is taking its part in making sure that we establish that, I'm happy to be welcoming students and hopeful that we shall continue with an education system that's up to standard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Senator Kihika. Statement D, Chairperson Energy. And please, chairpersons, we need your cooperation. Keep the time, keep it short. We have so many statements on the order paper today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Orders 51B to make statement on the activities of the Standing Committee on Energy for the period commencing January to 30th June. During this period under review, our committee had a total of 10 sittings, considered 6 statements, and made several inquiries, and undertook 2 county visits. Mr. Speaker, regarding statements pursuant to Standing Order 48, subclause 1, the following 6 statements were requested for committee during the period under review. Federalism of electricity transformers serving schools at the community projects in Kajiado County, which was requested by our Deputy Senator, Mary Senator. Constant power rationing at the blackouts in Wajir, which was requested by Senator Dr. Ali. Power purchase agreement between Lake Turkana Wind Project and the government of Kenya, which was requested by Senator Moses Wetangula. The oil spillage that occurred in Kiboko area, Makueni County, which was requested by Senator Mutula Kilonzo, and the status of the gas A2 project, the Mwananchi gas project, a government project initiated by the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining, requested by Senator Los Nyamunga. All the statements within the purview of the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining. The committee has held several meetings with the cabinet secretaries, Minister of Energy and the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining, to interrogate all the 6 statements, and invited all the senators to attend, since the matter raised in the 6 statements affected many counties and impacted negatively on the local economy, productivity, and achievement of the Big Four. In respect of the statement sought by Senator Mary Senator, on the federalism of electricity transformers in Kajiado County, I'm glad to report that following the intervention of the committee, all the federalized transformers in Kajiado County have been replaced and the electricity supply has been restored. On the statement sought by Senator Abdullahi Ali on the frequent power outage in Wajir County, I'm equally glad to report that after the intervention of the committee, 1 megawatt generator has been transferred from Garissa to Wajir. In addition, a repair has been undertaken on 1 megawatt diesel generator, and that electricity supply was restored. The committee noted that an upgrade of the Wajir power station is underway and is scheduled to be completed in June this year. With regard to the statement sought by Senator Moses Wetangula on the power purchase agreement, is in the process of scrutinizing various agreements. Preliminary interrogations on the matter indicated that the government may have lost some money due to payment of penalties as a result of delays in commissioning the transmission lines. With regard to the statement sought by Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. on the oil spillage in Keboko area, the committee visited the site on 3rd June to review the status of the spillage before interrogating the matter. Currently, the committee is interrogating the response received by the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining, Ministry of Water, and the Ministry of Environment with their statement, with their state agencies to agree on the way forward. I must add, Mr. Speaker, that this is a matter of a very serious concern, since this involves a new pipeline built recently at the cost of 50 billion shillings, and the committee is actively concerned with the state of affairs, and we are going further to ensure that things will be put in order. With regard to the statement sought by Senator Los Nyamunga on the status of Gasietu, the Mwananchi gas project, the committee has set up a meeting on 3rd July with the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Mining on deliberate challenge on the statement. We held this meeting yesterday, and I'm glad that Senator Nyamunga had the time to attend, and we interrogated and they agreed the project must be actualized and put back on track. And in the next 2 weeks, we will be having the way forward from the ministry on how they are going to ensure this project really is actualized and reaches the ordinary Mwananchi. Mr. Speaker, in the course of the exercise of the oversight mandate in the period under review, the committee held consultative meetings with the Cabinet Secretary and the Principal Secretary of Mining and the Petroleum and the Acting Managing Director of Kenya Pipeline and the Director of Energy Regulatory Commission on the emerging issues and made the following findings. The status of insurance covers for Kenya Pipeline Company. The committee established that the company has insured its assets to the tune of 136 billion shillings. Operation of the Mombasa-Nairobi pipeline, the committee established that the pipeline is in operation, and the first product arrived in Mombasa on that is June 2018. The pipeline has improved supply with a flow rate of 1 million liters per hour and was reported to be making profit. The committee noted that the pipeline has an increased operational efficiency, reduced power costs, lowered maintenance costs, and reduced demurrage costs by 56% at the port. The committee, however, noted that the main challenge with with the pipeline is that the pipeline has been installed without a leak detector, which we are following up to ensure that the leak detection system is put so that an incident like the one which happened in Kimboko does not occur again. In this matter, we are extremely concerned as a committee because we still remember the incident of Sinai, and we would wish that these leak detections are put on our pipelines to ensure that there is no such incidents. Then the status of the Kisumu Oil Jetty, the committee noted that the project is complete and awaiting commissioning on June 2019. The committee, however, established that the operation of the facility will depend on the completion of a similar facility in Uganda and Rwanda. This is something that will ease the transportation of fuel from Kisumu to Uganda rather than trekking by road. Status of the EC investigation at Kenya Pipeline. The committee was informed that 18 employees of Kenya Pipeline were charged in court in December 2018 in relation to procurement of hydrant valves, and the matter is still in court. Allegations on furnishing the jet fuel. The committee established that contrary to the allegations of the furnished jet fuel, no fuel had furnished and the matter was concluded. Oil spillage and pufferage. The committee established that Line 1, which is 40 years old and has outlived its useful life of 25 years. The high soil salinity in the region has impaired the integrity of the aging line. Claims on the spillage and pufferage were made to the insurance company with little success. The committee noted that a forensic audit is ongoing on the matter and required Kenya Pipeline to hire the service of some loss adjuster. Mr. Speaker, this is the issue of pufferage of fuel, stealing of actual fuel has been a constant concern to our committee, and we keep following up. You remember we had some theft in Kisumu, we had theft recently at Mlolongo, and nobody knows where any other theft is occurring. And I must tell this House, this is an inside job because this is a very expertized job. Nobody can go to a petroleum, to get petroleum from a line unless he is taking a command who knows what to do. Installation of leak detectors. The committee noted that there has been a prolonged procurement process of leak detection unit, and that a court case in 2016 had been lodged in 2016, and the measures in the financial year 2018-2018 delayed the procurement further. The committee established that other documents that have been prepared for procurement in the financial year 2019-2020, this has to be procured. Operation of Kenya Petroleum Refineries Limited. The committee noted that the government of Kenya has acquired 100% shares in the refinery, and that the cabinet directed that Kenya Pipeline take over the management of the Kenya Petroleum Refineries. The committee observed that Petroleum Refineries Limited has been storing the crude oil from Turkana wells at their Changamwe facility. The cost of the rising cost of petroleum fuels in Kenya, which has been another sticking point to us, because fuel cost affects everything. Wananchi in this country are actually crying for the high cost of living, and my committee has been concerned with how the cost of fuel can be brought down. Therefore, the committee noted that Kenya currently sources 100% of the petroleum product from international market, which plays a fundamental role in determination of the final price of the refined product, and that the trade of the local prices reflects with great accuracy the trade in the international market. Since 2016, the committee received a quarterly reconciliation report between the Energy Regulation Authority, Kenya Pipeline Company, and the oil marketers that guide the authority to verify the losses before payment. Mr. Speaker, during the period under review, no bills or petitions were referred to our committee. In executing its mandate, the committee noted a number of challenges that generally affect the energy sector and the operation of the committee. Some of the challenges are the proposed recommendations. The first of these are the numerous court cases in procurement of goods and the services such as leak detection unit, etc. The Lake Turkana implementation project, which has also been logged with some court cases. On this, the committee urged the courts to expedite pending court cases and those found culpable be held personally responsible. The committee was also faced with the challenge of non-submission and late submissions of documents by the ministries. Another challenge with the Honorable Senators area, which the Honorable Senators area are aware of, is that our committee encountered the misapplication and the misinterpretation of the sub judice rule by the cabinet secretaries to try and evade sometimes to answer questions. But we keep on pushing and we are overcoming this. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, in the half year, the committee proposes to focus and pay special attention to the two statements sought by the Senator Mutula and the Senator Rose Nyamunga that are yet to be finalized, and the Lake Turkana and the oil sites in Turkana County and the geothermal wells in Nakuru. Mr. Speaker, as I had mentioned in concluding, I want to say my committee is particularly concerned with how fuel prices can be contained or brought down, because this has a serious effect in the economy, in the economic development of this country. And Mr. Speaker, I beg to please.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Senator Maina. Now, other senators, we still have quite a few other statements. And chairpersons, it is your report. You must have internalized it. So be brief. Just highlight. In any case, you are tabling the report. Give us the highlights. Chairperson Finance. What is it, Senator Professor Ongeri?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had the privilege of being a director of Kenya Petroleum Refinery Limited in Mombasa when they had the shareholders A and B. The raging controversy at that time was the inefficiency of the petroleum company at that stage to process the throughput that was coming through, occasioning tremendous loss through the transmission lines between Mombasa and the oil refinery tanks in Nairobi. So the question, I don't know, now that the committee went to the refinery, have they improved the efficiency of that refinery? Because one of your worries is the question of costs of refining the product, the crude product. Two, have they been able to put sensors in the transmission line so that you are able to detect any leakage along the line, so that we will have to be spared of the kind of headache we saw in Makueni, where there was so much seepage of the crude oil and the petroleum products to the soil without any benefit accruing to the Kenyan people.
Thank you, Chair. You don't have to respond. Take note of those concerns. Order, Senator Minor. You've heard what Senator Professor Ongeria said. If he wants to bring a statement, he can bring a statement. But normally, what we are engaged in is not like a question and answer exercise. You report, and then maybe a senator can give a comment or an observation. It's not to seek a statement. What do you want to do?
I just want to give him a point of accurate information. That
but not, this is not the time, because he just made some comments, raised some issues. You can engage over tea. And if he really feels it's something that requires a request for a statement, he knows what to do. So ordered.
The refinery is not working today.
Very well. All right. All right. Now, Senator Ongeri, you know the refinery is not working. 1 minute, Senator Godana, you want to make a comment?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to commend the chair of the Energy Committee on the way they handled the issue of the Electricana wind power transmission line, because that's where the CS was trying to avoid completely answering questions. And also, I think we have looked at whatever answers they gave with Senator Metangula, and I commend the chairman for saying that actually there might have been some loss, and that needs to be investigated further, Chair.
Thank you very much. Chairperson, budget. Please give the highlights. We are running short of time.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 51-1B to make a statement on the activities of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget for the period commencing 1st January 30th June 2019. Mr. Speaker, sir, during the period under review, the committee held 33 sittings, considered 3 bills, 2 petitions, and 4 statements. The committee held 3 engagements with stakeholders and held 3 public hearings. In respect of bills, the committee considered the following 2 bills and tabled the report in the Senate. A, the County Wards Equitable Development Bill, Senate Bill number 34, 2018, and the Division of Revenue Bill 2019. So, Speaker, sir, the Division of Revenue Bill, of course, was passed by this House with amendments and was rejected. There was mediation. Now there's total failure, and I gave a report on this matter yesterday very comprehensively. Speaker, sir, the committee also considered the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 3 of 2019, and conducted public hearing, and is considering this report for tabling in the Senate. Additionally, pursuant to Standing Order 126 of the Standing Orders of the Senate, the committee considered a pre-publication stage a legislative proposal on amendments to the Public Finance Management Act by Senator Agnizani, as well as a legislative proposal on a prompt payment bill by Senator Farhia Ali. Speaker, sir, regarding a statement pursuant to Standing Order 48.1, 4 statements were referred to the committee during the period under review. The statements were sought by Senator Faduma Dulo concerning pending bills owed by Cielo County, Senator Dr. Ochilo Yako concerning loss of financial and procurement records of Migori County Government Executive, Senator Khaniri regarding additional charges levied on the residents of Nairobi County seeking rate clearance certificates from Nairobi City County Government, and Senator Abshiro Halake regarding the issue of zero rating of duty and VAT on locally manufactured menstrual hygiene products. The committee is considering the matters raised and will table the report once the matters are concluded. The Speaker, sir, with regard to petitions, the committee considered 2 petitions. The first petition was by Senator Maura on behalf of the petitioners on the issuance of Kenya currency usable by blind and visually impaired persons. The committee considered the petitions and recommended that the central bank fast-tracks the release of the new generation currency, which is usable by the blind and visually impaired persons. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm happy to report that since then, the new currency has been launched and released into circulation. The second petition was by Senator Enoch Wambua on behalf of a group of contractors from Kitui County. The petition was on non-payment of suppliers by the Kitui County Executive for services rendered. The committee is considering the petition and has met the petitioners, Kitui County Government, executives, and Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. The matter is under consideration. The report will be tabled once finalized. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the period under review, the committee considered the report of the Office of the Controller of Budget on the review of the county government's budget implementation for financial year 2017-18. The committee tabled its report, which was adopted by the Senate. The committee also considered the addendum to the county government's cash disbursement schedule for financial year 2018-2019 and tabled the report, which was adopted. This was in respect to some conditional grants which came later after the budget. The Speaker, sir, the committee considered the 2019 budget policy statement and the medium-term debt strategy and tabled its report. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to confirm that the National Treasury has submitted the policy on one of the resolutions. The Senate directed the National Treasury to submit to the Senate the national policy to support enhancement of county government's own source revenue. I want to confirm that the National Treasury has submitted the policy to the Senate. My committee is considering the policy and has also initiated necessary engagement with the stakeholders. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee has planned to undertake the following key activities in the next half-year period. Consideration of the County Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bill number 8 of 2019, of course, depending on how we go with the Division of Revenue Bill, which is now in stalemate. Consideration of the criteria basis for allocating among the counties the share of national revenue allocated to county-level government, that is the third generation formula. C, consideration of various proposals submitted by different stakeholders on provisions of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 that require to be revised through necessary amendments. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to table.
Thank you. Senator Zani, 1 minute observation.
Mr. Speaker, let me also stand to commend the Committee of Finance for the work they do. You can see the systematic way in which they've been conducting their affairs, consider the lot of business that goes into that particular committee, and specifically with the way they have dealt with DOB and DORA. On one issue, or the policy, the national policy that they've mentioned for on-source revenue, I think this is going to be very critical because this is the hot issue that is coming up across the counties. And I think bringing together all the stakeholders and being able to talk through them so that they can actually come up with a proper scheme on how to manage on-source revenue, especially at the county level. As we know from a report that has been shared, is that in some counties we have almost up to 11 systems of monitoring on-source revenue within those counties. So clearly there's a problem, and probably we'll end up with a scheme where we have overall one methodology and format and then followed by the other. So I commend the Finance Committee and thank you for that report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Chairperson, Health Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 51, 1B, to make a statement on the activities of the Standing Committee on Health for the period commencing 1st January to 30th June 2019. Honorable Speaker, during the period under review, the committee held a total of 16 sittings. We considered 3 bills, 1 petition, 2 statements, and undertook county visits to 3 counties. The committee also held 7 engagements with stakeholders and 3 public hearings to receive submissions from the public to 3 bills. This was in respect of the following bills: the Mental Health Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 32 of 2018, the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority
Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 38 of 2018, and the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 9 of 2019. Mr. Speaker, the committee also held public hearings on the Mental Health Amendment Bill 2018 and the KEMSA Bill 2018. We considered the submissions made by the public and tabled reports on each of the two bills in the Senate on Thursday, 20th June 2019. With regard to the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill 2019, the committee received submissions from the public and shall be tabling its report. Mr. Speaker, sir, regarding statements, the committee concluded its consideration of a statement which had been sought by Senator Samson Cherargei regarding the expiry of drugs at the stores of the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority. The committee received a response on the statement sought by Senator Charles Robinson Kibiru on the situation of health services in Kirinyaga County, Kirinyaga County Referral Hospital, which it is considering before giving response to the senator. With regard to the petitions, Mr. Speaker, the committee considered a petition on the agreement between the county government of Isiolo and Living Goods Limited for the provision of community health services in Isiolo County and tabled its report on the petition on 27th March 2019. Mr. Speaker, sir, in respect of county visits, the committee undertook county visits to Kitui, Machakos, and Kajiado counties. During the visits, the committee inspected health facilities at the Kitui County Referral Hospital, Mwingi Sub-County General Hospital, Machakos Level 5 Hospital, Kangundo District Hospital, and Kajiado Level 5 Hospital. A report on the visits will be tabled in the Senate. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee intends to carry out the following activities during the next quarter. Number one, hold meetings to address the operations of KEMSA, including its supply chains and the outstanding payments owed to KEMSA by various county governments. Secondly, we'll hold meetings with the Ministry of Health to deliberate and chart a way forward regarding the budgetary allocation that is retained in the ministry headquarters, yet health is a devolved function. And finally, we intend to hold meetings with the Council of Governors, the Ministry of Labor, and the necessary stakeholders with a view to addressing the welfare of health workers in the counties. Mr. Speaker, sir, that is a statement relating to the activities of the Standing Committee of Health.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Were. Senator Dr. Abdullahi Wako, 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Abdullahi Ali, correction, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Abdullahi Ali.
Yes, sir. I used to have that one when I was in the National Assembly also. So.
What is it, Senator Mtula Kilonzo Jr.? You're on a point of order?
I had something I wanted to contribute on a point of order.
An observation or on a point of order?
Observation on the Committee of Health.
Okay, Senator Dr. Abdullahi Ali first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to add that the committee visited Pokot, West Pokot, and also visited Laikipia County recently. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I hope you informed the host senators. Very well. Senator Mtula Kilonzo Jr., 1 minute.
As Speaker, I was just a little concerned that the Vice Chair was seated there while the report was being read. But more substantively, Chair, on Kirinyaga, I'm extremely concerned because what I've heard from the committee about the situation raised by Senator Kibiru is not satisfactory. Kirinyaga residents are suffering, hospitals are closed, doctors have been fired, similar case with Laikipia. I'm actually a little surprised that the Vice Chair says they visited Laikipia, and the correct position is that 61 doctors were fired by the governor. I expected, Mr. Speaker, that we would have a more substantive statement on what exactly is ailing this industry, and particularly function of health. Mr. Speaker, and I raised this concern with Professor Sam Ongeri yesterday, it appears slowly, if we do not watch, and if the health committee does not put its foot down, Kenyans are going to start believing that the function of health should go back to national government. The third one is obviously the question of, I would have loved to hear a report on just a summary of the health laws amendment bill that was signed by the president. I think the Committee of Health should have raised a concern in their report because it happened during the quarter. It's something they should have raised substantively. Even if we are handling it at a different level, it should still have come as a matter that should have concerned them about the health bill. Thank you.
This is not the first time issues are being raised on the Health Committee. Senator Abdullahi Ali.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this morning I did not attend the meeting of the committee, and the committee agreed that Honorable Waiver present this report today. So it's not in bad faith that she did that. The other issue is the two counties which visited Kirinyaga and Laikipia. Both had issues of labor. And the labor issue does not only concern, we went there because of the medical issues, but it also should involve the labor committee. And this because these CBS are concerned and we cannot solve it alone, Mr. Speaker. So we are trying our best, and I hope that the other committees will be ready and prepared to work with us on these issues.
Okay. Briefly, Senator Ndwiga.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I would have expected the committee on health to also tell us what is happening, because we are seeing everyday doctors being sacked, and in cases like Kirinyaga, where we've had a long-running strike of doctors, that has had very, very negative consequences on the neighboring counties, like Embu, Mr. Speaker. Like in Embu now, all Kirinyaga people have flocked to Embu for medical attention. And the resources that we get are still the same. And most of them now are being held because of this dollar business. Mr. Speaker, we have a problem, so we hope the
Committee on Health
will address those issues.
Committee of Health, you need to pull up your socks. Very well. Senator Cheragai, approach the chair. Chairperson, Agriculture, highlights of your report.
Mr. Speaker, we have perhaps one of the shortest reports because we had an opportunity to give a report in the month of April. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 51-1B to make a statement on the activities of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries for the period commencing 13th May to 30th June 2019. Mr. Speaker, during the period under review, our committee held a total of 5 sittings, considered 2 bills, 1 petition, and 7 statements. The committee also held 1 public hearing forum, and 1 workshop. In respect of bills, the following are the bills that were considered: the Irrigation Bill, Bill number 46 of 2017, and the Control of Stray Dogs Bill, Senate Bill number 4 of 2019. With regard to Irrigation Bill, the committee considered the bill and proposed a number of amendments which were considered and passed by the Senate. Honorable Senators will, however, recall that the Senate's amendments to the bill were rejected by the National Assembly, and the bill was subsequently referred to mediation pursuant to Article 113 of the Constitution. The Mediation Committee, in which I served as Vice Chairperson, came up with an agreed version of the bill, which is pending consideration before the National Assembly and the Senate. On the Control of Stray Dogs Bill 2019, our committee held a public hearing, a forum, and is currently considering the submissions received from the public. We shall be tabling the reports once consideration of the submission is complete. Mr. Speaker, sir, regarding statements pursuant to Standing Order 48.1, statements were referred to the committee during the period of the review. The committee held a meeting with Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Irrigation, and his team on 29th May 2019 with regard to 3 statements which were sought by Senator Moses Wetangula, Senator Imana Ekal, and Senator Samson Cherargei. The committee had a similar meeting with the Cabinet Secretary in respect of 2 statements that were sought by Senator Mary Senator MP on 4th June 2019. The other 2 statements were sought by Senator Dr. Alice Milgo and Senator Professor Margaret Kamar. The committee will be meeting the Cabinet. The committee has actually met the Cabinet Secretary yesterday and dealt with those statements. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to petitions, the committee is in receipt of 1 petition concerning challenges facing small-scale tea farmers in Kenya, which was committed to the committee on 18th June 2018. Mr. Speaker, sir, my committee held a follow-up meeting with stakeholders of the Galana Kularu Irrigation Scheme project on 21st May 2019 to chart a way forward for the completion of the project. This meeting was attended by Minister of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Irrigation, the National Irrigation Board, and the Green Alava Company, and the Office of the Attorney General. The committee has requested for a special audit of the project since its inception. This matter is still actively before our committee, and we shall be tabling a full report in the Senate once we have concluded consideration of the matter. Mr. Speaker, the committee held a workshop with the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on the proposed amendments to the Crops Act 2013 on 21st June 2019. Following a county visit to the South Nyanza Sugar Company Limited on 1st March 2019, the committee held a follow-up meeting with the company's board and management on 6th June. At this meeting, it emerged that a major challenge facing the company is cane poaching and delays in annual plant maintenance valued at 400 million shillings due to lack of funds. Mr. Speaker, sir, going forward, the committee intends to carry out the following key activities during the next quarter. Publication of a bill to amend the Crops Act 2013 so as to unbundle the regulation and management of major crops that fall within the ambit of the Agriculture and Food Authority and establish standalone agencies for their regulation. Hold a meeting with the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries and the Privatization Commission to establish the roadmap towards privatization of the Kenya Meat Commission and sugar companies and transitional arrangements for the same. We intend to hold a follow-up meeting with Shoni Sugar to come up with a roadmap for the company to ensure that it remains viable. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Senator Milgo, 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this statement and congratulate the Chair, Agriculture, Senator Andrika, a wonderful chairman, having been a Minister of Cooperatives in the past. I happen to have attended one of the meetings yesterday where they had called the CS Agriculture, and I found that they have done so many things. While in that meeting, I found that there are many issues that are going on that have been engineered by this particular committee, and I think it is, in this case, very important, more particularly because this country is really yearning to be food secure. So I wish to congratulate them.
Thank you.
And encourage them to continue. Thank you.
He is so congratulated. Senator Cherargei. Order, Senator Mutula. Order, Senator Mutula Glonzo Jr. You are speaking like somebody in the marketplace. It's not about what you want or what you wanted to do. Proceed, Senator Cheragai.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I raise under order standing order 47. Mr. Speaker, for months, weeks, and days now, this country has been treated to an unending display of force with impunity by the state and its organs, from arbitrary arrest to withdrawal of security of leaders and open humiliation of leaders perceived to be against the establishment. This country is evidently treading on a path not intended by the drafters of the Constitution of Kenya and those who went to the trenches for the same. Mr. Speaker, sir, this House has a duty to stand and speak out when the National Police Service, which is a creation of the Constitution, deviates from its objects and functions which are enumerated under Article 244 of the Constitution of the Supreme Law of the land, because we took an oath to defend the document. We are particularly under obligation to speak out when the basic human rights enshrined under the Constitution are blatantly violated. Mr. Speaker, sir, the security detail of our colleagues in this House, specifically Senator Susan Kihiga of Nakuru County, was withdrawn, both in the National Assembly. The governors also was withdrawn, some indefinitely and some temporarily. To date, the country has never been given satisfactory justification for these monkey games. The right to protection by the state for all citizens, including their leaders, is firmly anchored in our Constitution.
Order, Senators. Proceed, Senator Cheragai.
The state should therefore be called out whenever it acts as though security is a favor extended to only those who play the ball. A level of certainty and prediction in our security must be observed, because that is what professionalism required from the police and spelled out under Article 244 of the Constitution. With impunity currently reigning, Mr. Speaker, sir, none of us is sure when and how our security detail shall be withdrawn. I am not sure whether I will find the security when I step out of this House after reading this statement, but as a senator and the chair of Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights Committee in this House, I will not shy away from the duties required of me by my committee colleagues and the people of Nandi and Kenyans at large. Mr. Speaker, sir, 9 years after promulgation of the new Constitution, the country police service is now a secret weapon being used to suppress the freedom of activists, blockers. We have seen the likes of Robert Alai, Dennis Ntumbi, and the rest have been arrested, citizens and politicians perceived to be anti-establishment. The police force in this country is now carrying out arrests to amorphous charges at the instructions of their seniors, not on the strength of the evidence they have collected. Their show of unpreparedness and sheer malice is manifested by the amount of time they seek to conclude investigations, and the case that has just been concluded a few minutes ago against the blockhead Dennis Ntumbi, to detain more, to give the opportunity for more for investigations by the police. The number of days they seek are extremely ridiculous and unashamedly flies in the face of Article 49 of the Constitution, which details the right of the accused person. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am not ashamed to say that the DCI, on a number of occasions, including today, are on a fishing expedition in the matters that they are executing. As a House of the Oversight, Mr. Speaker, sir, I propose that this House, in the next 14 days, do issue summonses to the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Interior and Coordination of Government, to the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Hilary Mutiambai, and to the Director of Public Prosecution, Nurdin Haji, on two issues. One, to explain the government policy on the attachment of security detail to its leaders and its recent action on that regard. Two, to explain to the House the reasons for the state's unpreparedness when prosecuting matters that warrants them to seek for unreasonably long time to detain otherwise innocent citizens in this country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order, Senators. Thank you very much, Senator Cheragai. Order, Senators. I would like to communicate as follows. The chair has a difficult yet important job of making sure we balance all our issues and interests within the time limits we have. As I've said, it's a difficult job, but it's also important because that's what makes the House run. I say so because I see a number of senators want to speak to that statement. I will direct as follows, because I see quite a number of senators, more than 5. We don't have time. We are way past statement hour. I have noted that statement raises a very sensitive and important issue. I have also noted that Senator Cheregai did not request the Speaker to refer that matter to the committee. However, I direct as follows. One, that it will not be possible because of time limits to allow any further comments on what Senator Cheregai has stated before the House. However, in order to entertain the senators who may be interested to pursue this matter further, I will exercise the powers under Standing Order 47.3, which says the Speaker may, where appropriate, refer the statement made under paragraph 1 to the relevant committee. I direct, therefore, the responsible committee to follow up this matter. I take it up, and within 2 weeks, report back. During the consideration of this matter, I direct the committee to engage with Senator Cheregai, who has requested, who has issued this statement, any other senator who has some input, and the report must be thorough, and that requires engaging the highest level within the administration of national security, the Cabinet Secretary and the head of police, who is the Inspector General of Police. So ordered. What is it, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.?
Mr. Speaker, this statement, as you have aptly put it, raises serious concern. And you have also directed that certain directives and certain cabinet secretaries be summoned or brought to the Senate. However, Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the majority leader of the National Assembly made a certain statement which, in very few words, suggested that there are certain cabinet secretaries who should never step to the Senate, and if they do, they are subject to impeachment.
That house is not, this house is not aware of those comments, Senator Mutula Kilonzo. And the position is very clear. Let's not even waste time on it.
No, you may.
On the contrary, any cabinet secretary who refuses to honor the summons of this house will face constitutional consequences, very dire ones. And for the avoidance of doubt, we are not going to entertain in academic and theoretical debates on who should appear where.
Yes.
National security is not devolved. But for example, Senator Cheregai is talking about security of governors, security of, and senators, security of, so let's not enter into an academic debate. Any minister, and I dare say, who wants to test the strength of the Constitution of Kenya, let them defy. We shall deal with them firmly, thoroughly, and with finality. So, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., don't worry. That the Constitution has empowered us to do, and we'll do it very well.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm happy that you have issued a directive without me asking for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well. Let's leave it there. Honorable Senators, what is it, Senator Cheruyot?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know you've given guidance, but just for us to understand it better, listening to the matter that is being raised by our colleague, Senator Cheregai, there are overlapping issues, and the fact that you didn't
specify which specific committee will listen to the issues. There's an element of security, but also there's an element of trampling on human rights, because security is a human right, Mr. Speaker. The people that he's talking about who are being hauled into courts and the state asking that they be kept or incarcerated for 14 days, those are violations of human rights. In my opinion, Mr. Speaker, and I seek your guidance, the more weightier issues in the statement that Senator Cherargei is raising are issues to do with trampling of human rights. Will it be in order that you direct the relevant committee that looks into issues of human rights in this House to keenly look into this issue? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Cheruiyot. It is true, there are human rights issues involved, but the core of this issue is about misuse of state power in provision of national security services. And this is not a light matter. I therefore direct the Committee on National Security to be the one to deal with this matter. It can have the input of the Justice Committee, but the matter resides squarely within the Interior, or the Committee on National Security. What is it, Senator Ochilo Ayako?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that you have pronounced yourself on the matter of the threatened disregard of invitations to come to Senate, but I want to just give this information. Today there was a meeting of Security Committee, and I noticed that the CS concerned did not show up. I have also noticed that in Agriculture Committee and other committees where I attend, there has been a similar absence. The point I'm trying to raise, Mr. Speaker, is that the deliberate and willful absence of these invited officials is something that is gaining currents, and it is reaching a level that it can be regarded as defiance or impunity. So I wanted to request your good office, Mr. Speaker, as the chair of chairs, to invite our various chairs and to have dialogue and report on this matter with them, so that you become alive to the recurrence and the prevalence of this kind of behavior, because you are the repository of the authority of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Senator Ochilo Ayako, this does not require a meeting of the liaison committee. It's a straightforward matter, it's a constitutional issue, it's a legal issue. So the Senate is not an NGO. It's a state organ. So we are not involved in some charity, philanthropic activities around town. And therefore, I don't want to repeat what I've said. I dare any state officer who is courageous enough to defy this House on the advice of some stranger or some fellow out there to try what this House can do, and we will deal with them. So if any committee has any challenges in terms of securing compliance, the Office of the Speaker will support, as it should, all the committees of this House to discharge their legal obligations. Very well. Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. again. Different issue.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity. Speaker, I raised this matter with you when I approached you about the directions you gave on the Ethiopian airline issue. And I thought, Mr. Speaker, from the discussions we have had, it is apparent that what needs to happen is the matter needs to go to court and a declaration be made that those people are dead and manifest is produced so that death certificates can be issued. And therefore, I'm not certain whether, Mr. Speaker, you ought to give directions to that level, because although you directed it to the Committee of Security, I personally believe that this is a matter that should have been dealt with by the Legal Affairs Committee led by Senator Cherargei, because the only thing that has not been done is the declaration that those 33 Kenyans are dead, which happens in air crashes, which would therefore lead to the production of death certificates faster, Mr. Speaker. So maybe that can help, Mr. Speaker, in either you giving further directions or directing the committee so that they don't take too long on a matter where Kenyans have suffered, they have no bodies, they have nobody to bury, and now they are being harassed and do not know what to do about their loved ones. It's a very, very unfortunate incident. You being a teacher of law, Mr. Speaker, I believe that directive would have helped. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. It's true, we had a discussion with Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. on this matter, and there are a number of legal issues that have been brought to my attention after the directive I gave on Tuesday. I therefore have taken note of that point of order, and I'll give a ruling on how to proceed on the Ethiopian Airlines air crash issue on Tuesday. Very well. Next order. Leader of majority, before we go to the next order, statement of business of next week. And I'm sure that should not take more than 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. On the business of the Senate for the week commencing 9th July 2019, pursuant to Standing Order 52.1. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 52.1, I hereby present to the Senate the business of the House for the week commencing Tuesday, 9th July 2019. On Tuesday, 9th July 2019, the Senate Business Committee will meet to schedule the business of the Senate for the week. Subject to further directions by the committee, the Senate will consider bills due for second reading and committees of the whole on Tuesday, 9th July 2019. The Senate will also continue with the consideration of business that will not be concluded in today's order paper. On Wednesday, 10th July and Thursday, 11th July 2019, the Senate will consider business that will not be concluded on Tuesday and any other business scheduled by the SPC. Honorable Senators, there are 29 bills pending consideration by the Senate. 15 bills are pending at second reading, while 14 bills are pending at the Committee of the Whole stage. Additionally, there are a number of motions lined up for debate. In order to expedite their passage and to ensure effective use of the time available to debate and conclude on them, the SBC resolved to prioritize second reading and Committee of the Whole stages on bills on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and to undertake division on Wednesdays. Motions have been prioritized for Thursdays. As a result, I urge all respective movers of bills to be present during the second reading and Committees of the Whole stages, and for senators to be available when divisions are scheduled so that we can expeditiously transact the business. I also take the opportunity to urge the party whips to ensure that the House has the requisite number to undertake divisions. Honorable Senators, you will note that the Senate has received quite a number of petitions and statements which were referred to select committees. I urge respective committees to expeditiously conclude with pending petitions and statements from them. Honorable Senators, Standing Order 51(1)B provides for quarterly reports to the House by select committees relating to their activities, including consideration of bills, statements and petitions, and inquiries undertaken. Before we proceed on the short recess, the SBC approved a schedule of reporting by select committees, and the specific committees to present reports are highlighted in the appendix to the order paper for each sitting day. In this regard, I appeal to chairpersons to prepare accordingly in order to utilize that mechanism optimally. Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank you and hereby lay the statement on the table of the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kiika. Other senators, we have visitors in the public gallery. Therefore, we want to appreciate them students and teachers of Kabare Girls High School, Kirinyaga County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcome visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Order senators, we shall now move on. I think that brings us to the end of that particular order. It was very long, so many statements, but I'm glad we've covered a lot of ground, especially because of the quarterly reports that are quite substantive. So you've done very well this afternoon. I will now apply Standing Order 40, paragraph 2, and request that we call out order number 6, notices of motion, and then we go, after that, when we exhaust that, we will go to order number 8 and proceed as per the order paper. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Senator Ndwiga, you have a notice of motion? The mediation report.
Mr. Speaker, as I move the motion, allow me to welcome the students of Kabare Girls High School, who they are my neighbors back home. And it's one of the schools in this republic which has always been doing very, very well. It's a national school which does very well. So I wish to welcome the students of Kabare Girls to the Senate. And that's on behalf also of Senator Kibiro of Kirinyaga. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give the following notice of motion, that the Senate adopts the reports of the Mediation Committee on the Irrigation Bill, National Bills number 46 of 2017, laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 3rd July 2019. And pursuant to Article 113 of the Constitution and Standing Order 1613 of the Senate Standing Orders, approves the mediated version of the bill. Mr. Speaker, first as I...
Order, it's a notice of motion. The next notice of motion is from Senator Rose Nyamunga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I give notice of the motion that aware that county health facilities and the promotion of primary health care are devolved functions, and each county government is striving to offer the best health care to the people of Kenya. Cognizant that the provision of healthcare services is continually riddled with numerous challenges ranging from understaffing to personnel to inadequate facilities and equipment, resulting in congestion in hospitals, further restricting effective service delivery. Noting that every Kenyan has a right to affordable and accessible healthcare, and the President has launched a pilot universal healthcare program called Afya Care that will see many Kenyans access improved healthcare. Cognizant that the diverse nature of counties and wanting infrastructural development in comprising is comprising the quality and accessibility of health center, especially during emergency situations, resulting in the loss of many lives occasioned by the failure by parents to reach healthcare facilities in time. Further concerned that in each county, there are numerous unemployed community health workers who are adept at working with communities in emergency situations and have the prerequisite experience to support the prerequisite experience to support the medical practitioners in our county, where, according to the World Health Organization's 2014 report, there are 2 doctors for every 10,000 people. Now, therefore, the state resolves that the Council of Governors, in partnership with the Ministry of Health, 1, to develop a policy for training, certification, and employment of community health workers to enhance the emergency health service delivery in the counties, and 2, facilitate the said community health workers with the necessary basic equipment for use during emergency cases.
Thank you very much. Next order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order number 8, motion, adoption of the report of the Mediation Committee on the Irrigation Bill, National Assembly Bills number 46 of 2017.
Senator Ndwiga.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first, as I move this motion, I wish to thank the members of the Senate who are members of the Mediation Committee.
Move the motion.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion: that pursuant to the provision of Article 1132 of the Constitution and Standing Order 1613 of the Senate, Standing Orders, that the report of the Mediation Committee on the Irrigation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2017, laid on the table of this House on Wednesday, 3rd July 2019, be approved. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Irrigation Bill number 46 to provide the development and management and regulation of irrigation to support sustainable food security and socioeconomic development in Kenya and for connecting purposes. The bill also seeks to repeal the Irrigation Act's Cap 347 of the laws of Kenya, which commenced on 24th June 1966. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Irrigation Bill 2017 was read a first time in the National Assembly and committed to the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock on Wednesday, 14th February 2017, pursuant to Standing Order 127. The bill was later passed by the National Assembly on Tuesday, 15th May 2018, and subsequently forwarded to the Senate for consideration pursuant to provisions of Article 110(4) of the Constitution and Standing Order 142. The bill was passed by the Senate on Wednesday, 20th February 2019, with amendments. Pursuant to Standing Order 158 of the Senate Standing Orders, through a message from the Senate, the bill was sent back to the National Assembly for concurrence on Tuesday, 5th March 2019. The National Assembly considered the amendments forwarded by the Senate and rejected some of the amendments on the 14th March 2019. Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Article 113 of the Constitution, Standing Order 146 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, and Standing Order 161 of the Senate Standing Orders, the bill was referred to a mediation committee with the sole objective of negotiating an agreed version of the bill that will be presented to both houses for approval. Mr. Speaker, the mediation committee had its first meeting on 19th June 2019 and adopted the report on 26th June 2019. I want to thank the members of the mediation committee from the Senate and the membership from the National Assembly, led by the Honorable Duale, leader of Majority Party in the National Assembly, for their dedication and commitment in performing the task of developing a version of the bill that could be approved by both houses. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, I sincerely wish to thank the members of the committee from the Senate for their dedication. I particularly wish, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, to mention Senator Ayako and Senator Naomi Wako, who diligently sat through the mediation committee to make sure that the version of the bill passed by the Senate is the one that passed through, and to also make sure that as the bill was being mediated, that the interests of counties were taken into consideration. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Cross 9, the mediation committee settled for 9 persons to sit in the National Irrigation Authority. The committee retained the 2 persons nominated by the Council of Governors. That was the wish of the Senate. And you remember, Mr. Speaker, we even had a breakfast, Kamukunji, to consider some of these clauses. And that was the wish of the Senate, so we managed to get that in the bill. Further, the committee proposed that one other person be nominated by the registered associations representing the largest number of entities in the private sector in Kenya, while the last member be nominated by the umbrella body representing irrigation farmers in Kenya. Further, the committee adopted the Senate's amendments to Clause 9(2)(b), which provides that the board members shall be reflective of an appropriate professional, disciplinary, and stakeholder mix. In addition, the committee agreed with the Senate and deleted Clause 9(4), which had provided for election of a vice chairperson. With regard to Clause 14(1), the committee agreed with the Senate's amendments providing that each county government may establish county irrigation development units for the better carrying out of its functions with respect to irrigation, pursuant to Part 2 of the 4th schedule of the Constitution, in line with the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee adopted the Senate amendment to Clause 16(6), requiring the design of the national and/or public irrigation schemes take into account the environment's impacts an irrigation scheme is likely to have on environment. As for Clause 17, we convinced the National Assembly that consultation with the Council of County Governors was necessary when prescribing administrative and regulatory framework. In the spirit of give and take, they convinced us that the Water Act already provided for the manner in which effluents were regulated, and therefore the committee resolved to delete the proposal by the Senate. The committee also agreed that it was important to provide for both cost-sharing agreements and non-cost-sharing agreements under Clause 20. Mr. Speaker, sir, in regard to Clause 25, the committee observed that disputes may arise between one scheme and another, as well as within the scheme. It was therefore agreed that the one intra-scheme proposed by the Senate be deleted. In regard to Clause 34, the committee agreed to amend the subsection 1 to provide that regulations made under this section shall be approved by both houses of Parliament. Further, the committee also provided that Cabinet Secretary shall publish the regulations required under this Act in the Gazette within 90 days of the enactment of this Act. The committee also agreed with the Senate's amendment to the schedule. Mr. Speaker, sir, on Wednesday, 3rd July 2019, at its 2:30 p.m. sitting, the National Assembly adopted the Mediation Committee report and agreed to the mediated version of the bill. Finally, I urge members to approve the mediated version so that we take it to the President for assent. With those remarks, I beg to move and ask Senator Naomi Wako, who was a member of the Mediation Committee, to second the motion.
Well done, Senator Ndwiga. Good job. Senator Wako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second. Thank you.
Very well. Order, Senators. I propose the question, which is that the Senate adopts the report of the Mediation Committee on the Irrigation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2017, laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 3rd July 2019, and pursuant to Article 113 of the Constitution and Standing Order 161.3 of the Senate Standing Orders, approves the mediated version of the bill. Senator Dr. Zani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I stand to support the adoption of the report of the Mediation Committee. And first, let me start by commending the team that was went into this mediation that was appointed or allocated for this specific mediation, because I think right from the onset and looking at how things went in that committee, there was a lot of order. Starting with the selection of the various chairs and vice chairs and the representation of the houses, and also just looking at the time it took to mediate. I think by the third sitting, you already had been able to arbitrate among yourselves and decide which way forward. Mr. Speaker, this seems to be the way most of the bills are going to go, putting into consideration Article 110.3 and its provisions and how difficult it has been for us to make this determination. But I think even with that, Mr. Speaker, given that now we are in a bicameral system and each of the houses has specific interests, and you'll notice, Mr. Speaker, we're getting more and more of this, especially when we are now devolving most of the bills that were at the national level and infusing the very important devolution component that is very, very critical, and that is contextualized specifically in the Senate. So I think in that light, and having had the mover of this motion when he was speaking, clearly indicating that it was possible during the mediation for them as a mediation committee and infusing their views into the National Assembly to bring to light some of the key issues that are there at the counties. And Mr. Speaker, you will still realize that even when we're talking about both DOB and DORA, we have that same situation, for example, where we fail at the level of National Assembly, where the argument is, should we really send more money to the counties? That money will be misappropriated. But another view, and specifically held by Senate, is that money needs to go to the county, well managed. It will serve the people of the counties. The people of the counties are the same people who the members of the National Assembly serve. Mr. Speaker, therefore, this idea that we are able to infuse into arguments and into the mediation committee from the Senate perspective, I think is very, very key and very, very important. Secondly, the way this report has been laid out is so clear and so systematic. So we are very clear about the processes that took place, the specific clauses that were indicated in terms of them being adjusted, and these specific clauses being addressed, including the schedule, Mr. Speaker, but specifically right from clause 2, clause 3, clause 6, these are the contentious clauses for mediation, 8, 9, 14, 16, 20, 17, 25, 34, and the schedule itself. And one of the key outputs of this mediation process, putting into consideration the mwongozo guidelines that have been put in terms of committee, because I think the initial committee that had been suggested was very large, but the provision that a committee should not be larger or larger than 9 members, so just between 7 and 9 members. Mr. Speaker, the issue of irrigation and within the county context is very, very key. And therefore, it was important, for example, to ensure that this bill does not die. As we know, as per the standing orders and per the Constitution, if the bill at the mediation level, if the members of that mediation committee are not able to come up with a version of the bill that is acceptable to both the Senate and the National Assembly, then that bill is lost. So I'm happy that they were able to arbitrate, they were able to come up with a version of the bill that is acceptable in both the National Assembly and the Senate. And Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier on, the report is very clear, the clause by clause, of course, getting into the clear indication of which clause and what is said might not be helpful for me as I contribute from my perspective, because this has been clearly outlined into the report. I think my last concluding sentence is to really congratulate this team and that we have now a mediated version that will become an act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you for your contribution, Senator Dr. Zani. Senator Wario. Finally.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, jana ulinionya na leo niko mwadilifu kabisa.
Very well, Senator Wario.
Asante. Ningependa kuchangia mswada huu na ningeunga mkono sana kamati ya uwiano ambayo ilikaa pamoja katika nyumba zote mbili na kuweza kuandika ripoti nzuri kabisa ambayo tunaweza sema wakati huu tuiunge mkono ili mswada huu uende kuwa sheria. Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu kwa hakika wakati huu ambao nyumba zote mbili zimekaa chini ya mwenyekiti wa aliye wengi katika bunge ya kitaifa Adan Duale na kuweza kutupatia hasa na kuweza kuangalia sehemu ya mazingara iangaliwe vizuri katika kutengeneza shirika hii la kunyunyiza maji, yani irrigation. Tuangalie pande ya mazingara pia, na hasa walinakili vizuri pia katika kugharamikia pande zote ambazo tunasema cost sharing katika kimombo imeweza kunakiliwa vizuri, na tunasema kwa vile ripoti hii iliregeshwa katika nyumba zote mbili na zimekaliwa na watu ambao wamesema sasa ripoti imekaa mzuri. Tuliposomewa hapa mbele, Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona ripoti hii inakaa mzuri kabisa. Na mimi nikiwa mwanachama wa kamati hii ya Agriculture ambayo mwenyekiti wangu yuko jirani hapa nyuma yangu, tuliweza kuikalia vizuri, nami nikiwa katika mshiriki kabisa katika hali ya mazungumzo ya kuweza kuleta uwiano katika ripoti hii. Tunasema tutaiunga mkono, nami nimeondoka kuiunga mkono. Asante sana Speaker.
Very well, Senator Wario. Ripoti inakaa mzuri ama inakaa vizuri ama ni nzuri?
Mheshimiwa Speaker, ripoti hii kwa hakika ni nzuri kabisa.
Aha. Very well. Senator Professor Ongeri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, let me congratulate the two committees who are able to use the constitutional clause on mediation of our Constitution, clause 113. If you look closely at that clause, and the clause immediately below that, the money bills, we've had a headache in trying to agree on the division of revenue to our counties. The drafters of the Constitution had in mind there will come a time when in such a bicameral situation that we may not agree on the order, the bill, and the precedence the bill should take for it to become the law. And I think we've now had a very clear indication that where there is willingness on both sides to resolve the dispute, that willingness results in a mediated version of the bill. And I'm very happy that this is coming closely after. I remember, Mr. Speaker, when we were in Serena, when this country was in the throes of fire in 2007, 2008, it took both sides to sit down, agree within 5 days the way we should go forward. It's a very painful event to know that as I speak today, Mr. Speaker, that our counties are still reeling from the effects of a non-mediated division of revenue bill which came before this House. And therefore, I'm happy that mediation is indeed finding its way. In international law and international obligations, in all the United Nations organizations where resolutions are passed and resolutions are put before the floor of the House or floor of the General Assembly or any gathering or organization of the international organization, when there is a sticky point that is coming out where nations may not agree, it's always referred to mediation. Therefore, mediation has become a tool of resolving issues that are very prominently hindering the progress of any subject. In this matter, the bill of the irrigation bill, which was very successfully mediated by my very good colleague and friend, Senator Peter Nduiga from Embu. So, Mr. Speaker, the message, the moral message we are learning here is that if the two houses are able to agree on a piece of legislation, what makes it important? We are serving the same people. When you look at the counties, counties are divided into wards. Wards have legislators who are the MCAs. The Senate looks after the interests of the county, and therefore, in looking at the interests of the county, we also look at the type of legislation that will help them to carry out their responsibilities. Any legislation will always inadvertently be accompanied with the resources that are required to implement that bill. So I want, through this successful story, appeal to the other house again that they should come back together quickly and resolve the issue of the division of revenue bill, which got stuck in the last mediation process. And today, as we stand, the resource flow to the county governments are not coming forth. And therefore, I commend this process. It's the way to go, because not always that we're going to agree on some issues, but I'm sure we can find a common ground on how to proceed forward and make this nation prosper. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and congratulations on the two teams that mediated successfully on this matter.
Thank you, Professor Ongeri. Very clear remarks. Senator Mahmood.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy that the two houses of Parliament have agreed on a version of a bill that can be passed into law now. So, Speaker, sir, the Constitution of Kenya 2010 contemplated a situation where the two houses can have different opinions as regards particular bills. And that is provided under Article 112 that if there is disagreement in terms of the passage of the bills, then this matter be referred to Mediation Committee. And in fact, under Article 113 of the Constitution, it provides how the Mediation Committee shall proceed. And in fact, it's then foreseen that the committee will either agree or disagree to come with a version of a bill that can be passed by both houses. And this is the law. This is our Constitution, and there's nothing strange about, the House disagreeing on maybe the bill at this initial stage. But at mediation, there must be then some sense in people agreeing moving forward, because the bill, if both houses agree that the bill is very important to this country, such as the current bill, the irrigation bill, is a bill which is important, is a bill which is important nationally, a bill which is important, at the county level. And if then the thinking is that it's important, then people must be able to come reason together so that, the law, a good law is made for this country. I'm happy that the Committee of Mediation on particular bill has agreed on a version. And in fact, today, I urge this House to pass this mediated version so that, this bill can come into law, so that, our irrigation, the process of irrigation, because this country all along has been depending on rain-fed irrigation, which is not actually today commensurate with the needs of this country in terms of food production. We are supposed to be a food security country, food secure country. We are a cultural country, but I'm sure we're all aware that we have serious problem in food supply in this country. So I congratulate the Mediation Committee of this particular bill for having agreed on a version that is going to be passed by both houses as contemplated in our Constitution. The Division of Revenue Bill, of course, I gave a report yesterday. We expect, because the originating house of that bill is the National Assembly, and there's no two way about it. That bill must be reintroduced. There's nothing also which stops this House to publish that bill, because it's a bill which concerns counties. But we don't want to go that way. We will, of course, expect that in the very near future, Division of Revenue Bill 2019 will be republished with taking into account all the issues that were raised in terms of the needs of the counties and the key needs of the national government, so that, revenues that are raised nationally can be shared equitably as contemplated in Article 218 of the Constitution. So, Speaker, sir, I beg to support.
Thank you, Senator Mahmood. I would like to communicate, honorable senators, that we have visitors, students and teachers of Mary Leakey Girls School from Kiambu County. Therefore, in our own usual tradition of welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them. And on behalf of the Senate and on my behalf, I wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Thank you. We need to conclude this. I see two other requests. Senator Pareno.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I take this opportunity, first of all, to welcome the students from Mary Leakey Girls, Kiambu. Thank you for visiting the Senate. I am sure you have a lot to learn about our Senate procedures and probably about our counties. And we feel proud that you feel that the Senate is the place from which you can learn. So you're welcome. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Senator Ndwiga. Mr. Speaker, I think he has some sort of favor when it comes to mediation. This is the second mediation he has done within the last 2 or 3 weeks. Just before we went for the short recess, he was here again as chair of another mediation committee on warehousing receipt bill. So definitely we have a chief mediator in the House, having successfully done 2 mediations, and we've been able to get good products out of it. And I thank you, Mr. Senator Ndwiga, for that commitment, and of course the members of the committee that were able to come up with this harmonized version. Mr. Speaker, we don't need to belabor the point. This is the way to go. The Constitution had provided for mediation in case of disagreements. Not really disagreements, but normally we say we agree to disagree, or do we say we disagree to agree, Mr. Speaker? It is provided for that where you don't agree on certain bills, then you go for mediation. This is the way to go. Not the way that we saw the other day when one house, the National Assembly, was actually trying to demean the procedures of this house and our standing before their own constitution and our standing before the public. So, Mr. Speaker, if they should learn, then they have the best way to learn, knowing that mediation is provided for where we disagree. And at the end of the day, you can see that we actually disagree and later on come on mediation. And you give and take, and at the end of the day, we have a good product for our citizens. So, Mr. Speaker, we want to encourage this, and we should be able to sort most of our problems instead of trying to sort of demean each other, talk bad of each other, when there is a provision for us to be able to settle some of these disputes. So, Mr. Speaker, I thank Mr. Senator Ndwiga and the committee for the good work.
Senator Faria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice on the mediation issue. Mr. Speaker, before I continue with the main issue, I wish to join you in welcoming students from Meniliki Secondary School. In this country, we are very much ahead on a lot of aspects. And, but in terms of gender parity, whether it is appointment, jobs, political leadership, Kenya is still lacking behind. So we are counting on the future generation, you being among them, to come and bridge that gap of disparity. And I also hope that in my lifetime there will be a woman president in this country who will run the affairs of this country better than the men have done in this country. Mr. Speaker, in terms of no, I mean that is I'm just giving them a
proceed, Senator Faria. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I also wish to congratulate Senator Ndwiga.
I hope you are not inciting along gender lines.
Mr. Speaker, it is a matter of time, it will happen, and we will exceed the expectation of Kenyan when we become the president of this country, Mr. Speaker. I can assure you that.
Good luck.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I just wish to commend Senator Ndwiga for doing a good mediation, Mr. Speaker, and that is the spirit that the bicameral process should continue, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that I find a problem is Mr. Speaker, in terms of the discussion we had yesterday, I find the the trend that our sister house is setting is very dangerous, because if you pass a law and you expect other people to follow, then you should be the first one to follow that law, Mr. Speaker. This constitution was passed by Kenyans, by Cameral House, and the procedure in terms of when bills are passed by either house or when they are rejected and when there is an agreement is clearly laid out. And for Mr. Speaker, another house to demean this house, Mr. Speaker, is finding that somebody is not in sync with the spirit of this constitution that Kenyans have voted overwhelmingly. Mr. Speaker, one of the issues that I wanted to say yesterday, and I ran out of time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to thank the members who contributed to this. This motion, members have a lot of issues. We've talked of help, which was meant for poor families, but nowadays it doesn't benefit everybody. I wish to look at the prayers of the motion again and possibly come up with an amendment to try and change the HELP Act. So I thank the Speaker and the House, and I beg to move. Thank you.
Very well. So we need to. Order, Senators, we want to take a vote, and this is not a matter concerning counties. Order, Senators, I put the question, which is that aware that the Higher Education Loans Board, HELP, has for over the last 2 decades become the leading financier of higher education in Kenya, whose mandate is to source funds and lend them as affordable loans, bursaries, and scholarships to students pursuing higher education in recognized institutions. Cognizant that the Ministry of Education announced that the government has lost 7.2 billion Kenya shillings through people defaulting payment on loans issued by HELP, translating to 74,692 graduates who have defaulted the loans payment. Noting that measures were taken to enhance the HELP loan recovery process, which included a 6-month waiver of accumulated interest and penalties, and working with law enforcement officers to make sure the defaulters who are employed pay back their loans. Concerned that there are graduates from institutions of higher learning who have not been gainfully employed for many years after graduation and are therefore burdened with loans that have accumulated interest and penalties that they have no means to repay. Further concerned that when beneficiaries fail to remit their monthly installments for more than 3 months, HELP reports them to the Credit Reference Bureaus, CRBs, preventing them from accessing loan facilities with any financial institution in Kenya, accessing employment opportunities in the government and major private and publicly listed companies, and the loan guarantors are pursued and forced to service the HELP loan. Now, therefore, the Senate recommends that the Ministry of Education and HELP institute a 6-month full waiver of all interest and penalties accrued, including the lifting of CRB blacklisting for defaulters who are willing to repay their loans in entirety within the 6-month period, and two, embark on a 45-day sensitization exercise preceding the waiver, no later than 90 days after the passage of this motion. And as I said, this is not a matter concerning counties. Will as many of a similar opinion say aye? As many of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 12, motion, enhancement in allocation of research funds towards higher learning.
Senator Kasanga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I beg to move the motion for improving allocation of research funds towards higher learning, aware that early childhood education and village polytechnics are a function of the county governments, while secondary schools, universities, tertiary institutions, and other institutions of research are a function of national government under the 4th schedule of the Constitution. Further aware that institutions of higher learning have two basic functions, namely teaching and conducting research. Concerned that such institutions largely concentrate on teaching rather than research as a method of enhancing and imparting the practical application of skills, attitude, and knowledge by learners. Noting that funds allocated towards community and development-oriented academic research are neither sustainable nor adequate. Acknowledging that various national policies on research and innovation are available, but fragmentation in the sector has shortchanged the vision of a progressive national research agenda, thereby emboldening low science culture among the population, low global competitiveness ranking, inadequate funding, and poor linkages between academic research and commercial industry. Now, therefore, the Senate urgently calls upon the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology to provide a comprehensive report from all institutions of higher learning on the status and performance of research and innovation programs in the country. And number 2, reassess sector policies and develop a new work plan towards 1, improving allocation of funds for academic as well as sustainable community-based research to public institutions of higher learning. And secondly, providing subsidies and frameworks for partnerships between public and private institutions of higher learning to enable collaboration and better organization in research and innovations for community and county development projects. Mr. Speaker, we have a population of probably 20% youth in this country. And this motion is actually looking at the opportunities that we are giving to our youth today. In a conversation I had with them just yesterday, we were talking about suicide and wondering why a lot of our youths are really affected. And this is also translating to their mental illness and wellness. A lot of them are grappling with what to do when they cannot get a formal job. And there's no question about the fact that the informal sector is the larger employer of our youths today. So what is the government doing in enhancing this informal sector? And when we look at science sector and technology, when we are busy advancing STEM education, how much are we putting into research? That's a question we are posing here today. That we can speak about it, but where is the action when it comes to the government? How much money is actually being put into research? Mr. Speaker, when I was preparing this motion, looking at how other countries have approached research, it's a question of how much is allocated from their GDP. And that is how they value research and development. Again, Mr. Speaker, when we look at the job market, the things that actually provide employment for the youth, there are two things. It's innovation and entrepreneurship. And where do these things come from? It has to be research and development. Our youth today have gone beyond white-collar jobs. They're looking for other ways and other means of sustenance. And the government, today the country, has an obligation to provide avenues that can help them use the technology that they know to advance entrepreneurship, to advance business ideas, and any other ideas they know. Madam Speaker, there is no doubt that Kenyans are very innovative. We've seen a lot of social media inventions that are happening in the counties. And this is what we are talking about. The ICT CS one time, I think he was giving a speech on the 42nd graduation at Kenyatta University in 2017. I actually got an excerpt of that speech. And he rightfully said that the labor market is now technology and innovation driven. And then, to survive in the competitive environment with limited resources and opportunities, then there's need for the government to really step in to advance this agenda. In his speech, he talked about realigning, reposition ourselves to take advantage of new opportunities offered by technology. But then the question still begs, then what is the government doing to help our young people then access these opportunities? As per the CS, the government envisions establishment of at least 4 innovation hubs in 290 constituencies. When you imagine that, Madam Speaker, you imagine a case where somebody young has left school, there are no jobs. I can tell you it's tough. In the private sector now, a lot of downsizing is actually happening. And always the younger people are the low-hanging fruit. So somebody has their degree, but they cannot get their job of choice. Worse still, this house here, we debated some time back about the mass failure that happened on law students. And then, of course, the question of the capacity of our tertiary institutions to prepare our young people for the job market that is now globally competitive has been raised here. And today, when the Committee of Education was laying their report for the quarter, they were asked if they can look into the higher learning institutions as well and expand that scope of checking on what is going on there, because a lot of questions are now arising to even the quality of education of our tertiary institutions and the readiness that they are preparing our students and our young people for the job market today. So imagine a situation where a young person has their degree, cannot get a job, because we know that is the true situation. We've seen it again on social media when Eka Hotel called out for some positions and there was a flood of young people looking for jobs. That's how desperate now they have become. These young people need to be empowered to be able to do their own startups, to become entrepreneurs and innovators. It is they who will employ the others when they're entrepreneurs. And there's no question about it. In this country alone, we have seen the global market of technology looking at Kenya and Africa as a whole as potential business hubs when it comes to technology. The former American President Obama, when he came here, he came with a delegation of over 200 US investors, all looking at entrepreneurship and innovation opportunities. And we have some Kenyans, young people, who benefited from these things. But then the question again still remains, how has the government then plugged into these ideas so that these opportunities are then, accorded to our young people? Madam Speaker, we actually have a Science, Technology and Innovation Act of 2013. I was shocked when I found this because I didn't know it was there. And on Section 29 of this act designates functions of the agency to develop and manage the Kenya National Innovation System, setting standards, creating linkages in private and public sector, scouting and nurturing ideas, and establishing database of innovations and others. So whereas we know the government has made certain strides to technology specifically, we are looking at the opportunities for innovations, Madam Speaker. Section 32(2) of that act enacts that 2% of Kenya's gross domestic product to be provided by Treasury every financial year to establish a national research fund. Again, a good provision. Section 40 recommends that National Museums of Kenya establish a Museum of Science and Technology. Madam Speaker, this bill, this act is of 2013. We are in 2019 today. Where are these facilities where young people can go and get inspiration or ideas on innovations when it comes to science and technology? A policy framework 2012 and a sector plan 2013-2017 for science and technology and innovation, whose performance and public awareness plans are marginal. And I'm sure many of us are not even aware that we have these things. So then we have to task the government, because this one is a national government issue, but it's an issue affecting our young people. And we can see the levels of desperation among the young people. And we have a duty as leaders to provide these platforms for these young people to be able to tap their innovative blood, because they are very innovative. There's no question that they are very technologically savvy and able. I think Kenya ranks one of the highest in the globe when it comes to our use of technology. There's no doubt that, M-Pesa is a global innovation that is celebrated, that has come from one of our own here. And there are very many others. When you interact with young people and you hear the ideas that they flow, and you know that all they need is just a platform to advance their ideas, give them a bit of capital to start up, and then they become entrepreneurs. And then we shall begin to say we are actually creating jobs in this country. Whereas we appreciate the Big Four agenda of the government, we still question, where are the jobs for the young people? Where is this agenda, this Big Four agenda? Where does it place young people? And we get these questions all the time. Every time, Madam Speaker, we are out there speaking to the young people, the first question is, can you really explain to us really how the jobs have been created? But the truth remains, and the global trends do not lie, that innovation, entrepreneurship are the way of the future. They are the way that we shall provide more jobs. And technology, we are in a technology era. The government needs to step up. They need to actualize that 2% of the GDP. And actually, when you compare with what other countries in the world are doing in terms of research and development, countries like South Korea, Israel, Japan, Switzerland have almost 5% of their GDP towards research and development, because the world is fast moving, Madam Speaker. So this motion is self-explanatory, and it is time that we call upon our institutions, our government, to give capacity to our institutions of higher learning and to do as the Act prescribes. And that way then we can feel that we have done a little more for our youth, who are today extremely desperate, Madam Speaker. So I beg to move this motion, and I call upon Senator Dr. Musuruve to second. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Musuruve.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was waiting for your okay in order to stand up. I appreciate. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to commend Senator Kasanga for coming up with this motion. And in fact, it is coming in timely when we are thinking about issues of education in our country, when we are thinking of getting a shift from the curriculum that is there to a new one. And it is coming in handily. And why am I saying it's coming in handily? Simply because a lot of research has to be done, and research is important. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, I support this motion because when it comes to innovations, when it comes to the needs of the society, when it comes to what we need as a country, it is research that can give us an eye-opener. It is research that can actually make us know what are the needs and how exactly can we fulfill them. Now, I want to say, Madam Speaker, I also support this motion because the university has two core mandates, that of teaching and that of research. And I want to say that when even students graduate in a university, in fact, the first degree and even the diploma, they are told, we are giving you powers to read and do as it pertains. As it pertains has to do with giving back to the community, giving back to the country, giving back to the society in terms of research, in terms of knowledge. Now, I want to say, Madam Speaker, that there's need for money to be allocated and adequate money to be allocated in order to fund our universities for the purpose of research. And I'm saying like this from an empirical point of view, as in, I have been there in the university. I know that it has a core mandate of teaching. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, on the floor of this House, that what is happening in our universities right now should not be happening. Because at the moment, our universities do not have enough lecturers to teach. Even before you do a research, you have to go through some teaching. And when I'm talking of teaching, it has to do with imparting knowledge. Knowledge is power, but it is only power when it is shared. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, our universities need to be funded so that lecturers can be employed. We don't have adequate lecturers in our universities. And I want to bring out a case in point, and Chair should hear this, Commission of Higher Education. I read in the papers, Madam Speaker, just very recently, where Chair was questioning, interrogating Jomo Kenyatta University for, some names popping out as, invigilating many students. I remember Professor Mberia's name was there, Professor Namsonge's name was there. But I want to tell this House that Chair should allocate enough money to universities so that they can employ lecturers who are adequate enough to conduct research, because they're not adequate. For me, I was in the, Madam Chair, as you were speaking, when I was in Jomo Kenyatta University, I was in the Department of Media and Technology. The lecturers in that department who merit PhD holders are just very few, a handful, Madam Speaker. And I want to say in this House that they're choking because they're overwhelmed with a number of students who need to be supervised, who are doing research, but the personnel is not there. So can Chair, before it puts things on papers, before it begins questioning, can it investigate and find out how many lecturers who qualify are in the universities? And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that apart from teaching, the university is mandated to research. And when we are talking of research, research is ongoing. And when you're talking of research, it means doing it again. Research is something that is continuous. It is always there. It is unstoppable. It is not static. It is ongoing. Because research comes in to solve a problem that is in the community. Research comes in to solve a problem that is in an organization. It is through research that we can know exactly what exactly is happening, what is the gap, so that the gap can be filled. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, at university level, when it is funded adequately, it is possible to have enough personnel who can do the job, who can help even mentor students, who can help also inculcate the information they have, so that we have enough researchers on the ground. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, it is at university level that one gets the beauty of teaching, because you have monopoly of knowledge. You can read anything and nobody will stop you from reading. And the more we read, the more we really are able to do research that is even in New York, wherever, and all that. Madam Speaker, I want to say that it is really, really important for the government to ensure that it allocates money to universities, high levels of learning, colleges, to ensure that we solve the problems that we have as a country. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, by the time people are doing their students are doing their masters, by the time they're doing their PhD, these are students who are not even forced to read. They have an intrinsic desire to read and make a contribution to the society, to read and fill a gap, to read and give back to the community. So these are the people we should actually fund. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, I want to say a case in point, even what is happening right now. And it was a very ashamed situation where I remember I went for a workshop somewhere on special needs, and someone was standing up to say that, and quoting, that according to GM, to GM in IMA, and then the person continued to say this and that about the research on special needs and was giving information. I stood up and I told the person, by the way, what you're quoting, I am the GM. So I want to say, Madam Speaker, that even whatever was being quoted is research that I did in 2003 about special needs education, which I did. After doing, I actually took the research and I took it to KICD when Professor Ndurumo was the director of special needs of education. And I gave the work that I had researched for the purpose of implication because it had pedagogical implication. Madam Speaker, that work was not opened. It was left in the shelves. As you're speaking right now, the issue that is persistently coming up concerning special education and all that, it has never been addressed from the year 2003. And Madam Speaker, as a scholar, apart from being a leader, that is why I'm very passionate, because I know clearly people in these government offices, people in KICD have no time to read. And I saw it as evidence when they were coming to quote my work I did in 2003, but they cannot listen to me as a scholar. They will not implement what I saw, the empirical data that I actually researched on the ground. So I want to say, Madam Speaker, there is need for this country to really take university education and higher learning education seriously and fund for the purpose of research. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, any problem that is not researched objectively cannot be solved objectively. And why am I saying like this? I'm saying like this because in this country, most of the research that is done, I'm saying, in fact, in most government offices, it is biased. It is skewed to what they want. When you are talking of a research, you are talking of going to the field with an objective mind, with an open mind. But when people say these days we are doing a research, they've already doctored what to find in the field. So when they come, they're just telling you what is in their mind. That should not be there. Madam Speaker, I want to tell the Senate exactly what happens in the university, that the kind of research that goes on at higher levels of learning is rigorous. You cannot afford to doctor information because you appear before a panel, they ask you about how you got your data, they ask you very many things. I'm telling you, if you had doctored that information, you'd be very embarrassed. So I want to say that there is need for universities to be funded. There is need for us to invest in research because there are many problems that even happen. Like we hear of teenage pregnancies. Why is there teenage pregnancies? We had a meeting today where we were talking about issues of teenage pregnancies and all that. But the information that we were giving was desk information. It has not been researched. Someone will stand and say, I think we have teenage pregnancies because of decadence in values. I think it's because of this and that. There is need for proper research. When we talk of mental illness, when we talk of drug abuse, when we talk of all these ills that are going on in the society, we must ensure that we are talking about them, yes, but we are ensuring that a rigorous research that is objective, that is empirical, is brought on the floor of the Senate, so that when we act as a Senate, we can be counted and we can stand the test of time, that we actually got information that was researchable, the information that was objective, and information that was not really skewed. So I want to say, Madam Speaker, that there is need for a collaboration between the county government and universities and colleges, a collaboration between national government and universities so that they can do research for the purpose of solving a problem. And I want to say we can have a collaboration, yes, county government and higher university, national government and higher colleges, or we can even have a tripartite collaboration, where the county government is joining hands with the national government and joining hands with academia for the purpose of solving a problem for the sake of the children of this nation and for the sake of Kenyans. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I second the motion.
I now propose the motion that aware that early childhood education and village polytechnics are a function of the county governments, secondary schools, universities, tertiary institutions, and other institutions of research are a function of the national government under the 4th schedule of the Constitution. Further aware that institutions of higher learning have two basic functions, teaching and conducting research. Concerned that such institutions largely concentrate on teaching rather than research is a method of enhancing and imparting the practical application of skills, attitude, and knowledge of learners. Noting that funds allocated towards community and development-oriented academic research are neither sustainable nor adequate, acknowledging that various national policies on research and innovations are available, but fragmentation in the sector has shortchanged the vision of a progressive national research agenda, thereby emboldening low science culture among the population, low global competitiveness ranking, inadequate funding, and poor linkages between academic research and commercial industry. Now, therefore, the Senate urgently calls upon the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, 1, to provide a comprehensive report from all institutions of higher learning on the status and performance of research and innovation programs in the country. 2, reassess sector policies and develop new work plans towards A, improving the allocation of funds for academic as well as sustainable community-based research to public institutions of higher learning. B, providing subsidies and frameworks for partnerships between public and private institutions of higher learning to enable collaboration and better organization in research and innovations for community county development projects. Senator Milgo Alice Chepkorir.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise to support this motion on enhancing allocation of research funds towards higher learning. Madam Speaker, our institutions of higher learning in our country is expected to conduct, or in this case, mandated to conduct teaching and learning as well as research, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to say that research funding is necessary to ensure that our institutions of higher learning are empowered to produce fully baked graduates into the job market, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, our country, or rather our country, is as strong as its intellectual capital. And in any case, the reason why this motion has come at the right time is because of the fact that these issues of research in our universities is very weak. And the reason why it is weak, based on very many surveys that have been conducted, is because of a lack of funding. Madam Speaker, there are many problems that are affecting our societies of late, and in any case, these problems cannot be solved without the proper research. We have problems affecting our environment in terms of climate change. We have problems even affecting health in the society of late. Like we have diseases such as cancer, that is almost like having a normal cold, Madam Speaker. And in any case, we need empirical data to be able to address such kind of issues. We even have the Big Four agenda, especially in terms of agriculture and manufacturing, that we do require research findings to be able to enhance these particular activities. Madam Speaker, in academia, for example, all over the world, the universities are normally ranked based on the type of research, or rather the amount of research work that is going on in those various universities. And it is unfortunate that our universities are normally ranked very low, save for Nairobi University, that is normally appearing almost around number 100. And the reason is because of a lack of funding to conduct research. Madam Speaker, successful economies world over, in this case, normally exploit the knowledge and innovation gained as a result of research that is conducted in their various universities. And normally when the graduates get out of these universities, they'll go out to be able to add to the development agenda of those particular countries. And that is why those countries that are superpowers, you look at their research funding to their higher institutions of learning is quite high. For example, if you look at our Kenyan funding to the higher universities, Madam Speaker, you realize that it is very low, like it is standing around 0.8% compared to even Israel, that is standing at 4.3%, even the USA, over 3%, Sweden, that is 3%, and yet we are a third world country, Madam Speaker. We are supposed to even be having even a higher contribution of our GDP to research, Madam Speaker, so that we can position ourselves even to a better level, like in this case, we are having a vision to be a middle-income country come the year 2030. And we cannot be able to achieve that, Madam Speaker, without having a lot of rigorous research in our various universities. Because from this research, we would expect to gain knowledge in terms of innovation, different softwares, design new processes. Like, Madam Speaker, you remember Rivertex in your Sinkishu County had already collapsed, but recently it was given a new facelift, or in this case, it got a new lease of life because of new processes that were that is implanted in that particular factory. And right now, we did discover that it is now producing the laptops that is being supplied to the schools to be used. And we got vaccinated when we visited Rivertex because of what was going on there. And we did realize that in the coming future, if more funding is added to that particular institution, it is going to be the best in East and Central Africa, Madam Speaker. In addition to that one, we also realize that innovation that comes from research is what has lifted those organizations that are doing very well right now. We do even realize that Safaricom, that started in our country recently, in this case, is one of the leading private organizations in East and Central Africa. It is only unfortunate that we lost its CEO. I pass my condolences to his family. However, you do realize that there are very many innovative products that are in Safaricom right now, and it is a major employer in our country. And even right now, it is even assisting students from native families to go to school, Madam Speaker. We even have banks like Equity, because of the innovation that is going on there. That particular area, in this case, is going very high. In other words, we are saying we need our university graduates who come out of the universities with a lot of knowledge that is gained from research, Madam Speaker, so that the development in our country can go to the next level. Madam Speaker, we have just come out from medium development goals, and right now we expect to meet the sustainable development goals, and these ones cannot be achievable if in this case we not input in this that is new knowledge, so that we are able to achieve whatever is prescribed in those particular goals. Madam Speaker, sometime in the year 2017, our universities were even required to reduce their staff so that they can release some amount of money for research. But I wish to say here that rather than asking the universities to reduce staff, our government had better even enhance more employment of staff, because when we reduce staff, we may even miss the staff to conduct this particular research. Madam Speaker, our universities, or rather institutions of higher learning, require funding to increase the volume of research, require funding not only to produce high quality graduates, but then to ensure that they compete globally, Madam Speaker, and in any case, to ensure that we actually carry our country to become a middle-income country. Otherwise, our Vision 2030 will simply remain a blueprint without any achievement, Madam Speaker.
The cancer prevention, control, diagnosis, and treatment the wrong way. And what is lacking is research in this area. That all the information we receive, all the drugs that we receive, we are relying on foreign research, which does not put in consideration the genomics of Africans as we are. So we need to develop a culture of research so that we develop drugs, we develop interventions that are based on our own experiences and based on our own markups. So therefore, Madam Speaker, I support this motion and request that our institutions of higher learning, through the government, insist on their second part of mandate, which is research, other than just teaching, rote learning. There must be research and filling the gaps necessary for development. And we cannot develop and say we want to be a middle-income earner by Vision 2030 or a middle-income economy by 2030 if we are not investing in research. And with those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support.
Senator Haji Farhia Ali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to this motion. And I wish to thank Senator Kasanga for bringing this bill at the right time. Madam Speaker, we all spoke about how research is important. We are at a level in this country where even the research, when the students have their own initiative, they discover something, there is nothing to push them forward. Let me give you a few examples, Madam Speaker. I know there is a reagent that is used to test the level of insulin with people with diabetes. Madam Speaker, there is a Kenyan who discovered that in the US. And Madam Speaker, how I know this is because his wife was my former boss. Madam Speaker, today that drug is patented by a company in the US. Madam Speaker, a few years ago, we saw a schoolboy who developed lighting system where when elephants or any other animal comes near it, it flickers, and then in the process chases away. Madam Speaker, the other day I saw on the TV there was a young man who is a school dropout who was using his mobile and using solar system and his mobile to create a system that was able to lock doors and open doors, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there's two Kilifi schoolgirls who developed something that when used, it is able to detect, landmines and stuff like that. Madam Speaker, all these people who have done all this work without even the help from the government, where is the help from the government to ensure that there is mass production on what they have done so that this country develops? Madam Speaker, even in the news today, there was a discovery of medicine for HIV and AIDS. Madam Speaker, and one of the developers is a Kenyan, and the others are other nationality. Madam Speaker, another company will patent that, and that is the end of the story. In this country, we have a lot of people with intellectual capacity, Madam Speaker. Can you imagine if we can come up with all those without any support? And then with all those, without even somebody to take forward what people within their own innovation, their own effort, they have discovered, why is the government not even providing funds to produce those things at scale? Because, discovery is about unearthing something that is of social deficiency. For example, society needs certain solution in life. And once somebody discovers how to solve those problems, that is an innovation. And they say when you discover you solve a social problem, then the money naturally follows. But when those social problems are solved by people who are poor, who don't have enough capacity to produce, first of all, even our business people are not even picking those ideas to even, even if they patent and, give some share of royalty to the discoverer. But nothing of that sort happens, Madam Speaker. So for me, besides even setting some big amount of money for research and development, even when those discoveries happen, we need a follow-up in terms of financing set aside. So I'm asking the Senator Kasanga to include that as part of the resolution of the House for the government to finance those discoveries so that they can be mass-produced and they can solve a problem. Madam Speaker, if you check, we need to industrialize. It is part of our President's Big Four agenda. But Madam Speaker, unless it is being done still under the table and there is nothing that is on the news or something, all those discoveries that I have mentioned are things that can lead us to industrialization. Madam Speaker, to be fair to people who should have innovated, they need human beings need motivation to innovate. As long as those motivations do not exist, then even those other ones, it's like, it's like in the villages, if you go, people will tell you, why don't you work hard in school? And people will tell you, even those who have worked hard and they had A's, they finished university and they don't have a job. So why are you telling me to work hard? And then the other thing, Madam Speaker, is I think we fail even in schools in terms of the teacher. I don't want to belittle a teacher, because if it wasn't for a teacher, I would not be standing here in a house of this stature to put my argument forward. But Madam Speaker, even those who are picking careers sometimes need some level of guidance, Madam Speaker. Right now, when I started doing my accounting, the market needed 400 accountants, but there were only 100 of them who could come to the market. Right now, in terms of people who are sitting in the offices, the market is flooded. But the people who would have generated enough money to put people in the offices, and no attention is being paid in that field. So how can these people be employed? You need those people to generate business, you need people enough. Someone is putting some sign language there, so that's why I'm a bit disrupted. Okay, let me just give my final one.
You have the floor and should not be distracted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for protecting me. Madam Speaker, look at even CRA the other day when they were submitting to the House. They said part of the reason why they don't have water as part of their criteria is because they don't have any data regarding, they have data on who has access to clean water, but they don't have any data to show that there is how the distance between that person and access to that clean water. And what people are forgetting in that process is the economic value of fetching water in such a far distance, because imagine if that person had the water near, how much more money, how much more productive would they have been to do some other thing. So, Madam Speaker, I agree with Senator Kasanga. We need a lot of money set aside for research and development and innovation, but at the same time, we need funds to actualize the work of those who have already innovated. I thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to contribute.
I now understand maybe the sign language was meant to tell you that they also need to contribute. So I now call upon Senator Wambua Enoch Kioi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. But it should go on record that it's not me who issued the sign language. Madam Speaker, I stand in support of this motion by Senator Architect Sylvia Mweni Kasanga. The essence of this motion, Madam Speaker, is to put more money in research, and especially in our universities. And Madam Speaker, in the best interest of time, I will limit my comments to only 3 issues. One, Madam Speaker, I want to begin by saying that one of the things that happened following devolution is that we devolved governance and structures of governance. We also devolved funds, where we said funds should follow functions that have been devolved. Our universities, Madam Speaker, were not left behind. They also devolved. And what happened is that today, almost every county plays host to a college or some university in this country. And it is a good thing, Madam Speaker. The only big question that we should be asking ourselves is, what is the impact of devolving university education to our counties if those counties continue to grapple with simple capacity issues? Yesterday, Madam Speaker, a matter was brought to the floor of this House on the management of waste in counties. And it was agreed by all the senators who contributed to that matter that really very few counties, if any, are doing proper waste management. And the question to ask then, Madam Speaker, in line with this motion by Senator Kasanga, is it beyond universities and colleges that are situated in these counties? Is it beyond them to collaborate with these counties and do proper research on how to turn waste into better use for counties, to create jobs and create products that would be useful in those counties? Madam Speaker, the answer to that question is, it is possible for universities to collaborate with counties and do more than just proper waste management, but that is only possible if we have more funds and structures dedicated to research in those universities. The second thing, Madam Speaker, that I want to say, and this is in reference to a comment made by Senator Dr. Milgo on Rivertex and what they are doing. Madam Speaker, I happen to have visited Rivertex alongside colleagues from the ICT Committee of the Senate. We were impressed by what is happening at Rivertex. Not on the part, for this purpose, not just on the part of the clothing or the textile industry, but on the assembly of tablets for schools. But Madam Speaker, we need to scratch below the surface, because what is happening at Rivertex, which is a joint venture with Moi University, is that they are simply assembling tablets. The parts that constitute the tablets come packed in boxes, all the parts. And all the university is doing is to put the parts together, and the end product is the tablets that are going to schools. Madam Speaker, that's a good thing. But we can do better, Madam Speaker, because assembling parts developed by other people and other institutions, what we're actually doing is that we are providing a ready market for other people, for other universities. I would rather, Madam Speaker, that we get to a point that we start to produce those parts ourselves and put them together and have final products. I am encouraged to hear that in Rwanda, and I'm here to confirm this, Madam Speaker, they are now manufacturing their own smartphones from scratch in collaboration with universities, where people do proper research,
They produce the component parts of the whole, put it together, and they have good products. This matter of assembling parts from other universities and other institutions, Madam Speaker, it's a good one, but it's not sustainable. We are reminded of the Nyayo car project, where we were putting together engines and parts, but with the advent of the Rift Valley railways and the eventual entry of SGR, nobody talks about the Nyayo car anymore. The Vika plant, where we are doing motor vehicle assembly, it's almost a ghost. So, Madam Speaker, we need to go beyond just assembling parts into producing these parts. Finally, Madam Speaker, market research. Going back to last year, in August of 2018, I think, a CPS Research International gave a report that was almost shocking, that we have universities in this country, more than 35% of the universities in this country, they don't have research laboratories, they don't have incubation centers. And almost all the universities in this country rely almost entirely on funding from the national government to carry out research. Madam Speaker, I wish we could get to a point where universities establish collaborations with partners from across the globe, look for funding from outside national government, invest in research so that now we can begin to do our own products, our own policy-making processes based on research in real time. Madam Speaker, with those many remarks, I support.
Senator Zani Agnes Philomena.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to support this motion and congratulate Senator Kasanga for bringing it. Madam Speaker, I don't want to go into the virtues of research and development because I think Senator Wambua has eloquently done that in his presentation, and it's given. The whole field of innovation now is so critical. If you look at most of the countries where they're coming up with this innovation, and just not coming up with innovation, taking it through to the next level, so that that innovation can bring out something that can be functional. Madam Speaker, you remember even now the M-Pesa was an innovation that came from a young man, and now it has become something that has become very critical. So it's something that has to be encouraged. Madam Speaker, sometimes you'll find specific educational institutions enabling possibilities of colleges. They liaise with colleges, they liaise with universities to ensure that this sort of research takes place. Madam Speaker, in the field of imparting knowledge, the key issue with theory and research is very, very key. Even the amount of teaching and the level of teaching and the quality of teaching is enhanced by research. But unfortunately, because research is expensive, you find that most of the lecturers and most of the teachers tend to focus only on the teaching. So we come up with things like yellow notes, where you find somebody just has the notes that they taught from the last 20 years. It's still the same thing. Yet there are new things coming up, Madam Speaker, even when it comes to the area of doctors. You know, there's some doctors who don't have the recent techniques for handling any problem because they're not researching. And yet if you don't research, you don't really get where you're meant to get. And in fact, technology has really improved so that you can actually be able to research very easily, even on your phone or on any other equipment that you might have. So it's very, very important and very, very critical. What happens in the long run is that various national policies on research and innovation are available, but there's fragmentation in the sector. And therefore, you find that the whole research agenda, the whole adequate funding, competitiveness that is meant to be there is really interfered with. And this motion, therefore, calls for addressing this by coming up with a comprehensive report from all institutions of higher learning on the status of performance of research and innovation programs in the country. This is key, so that we know where are they and then how can they be built up to the next level. 2, improve allocation of funds for academic as well as sustainable community-based research. This is very, very important. And I know there are certain initiatives even at university level to ensure that funds have been made available, But the systematic way that this should be done is not really there. So sometimes you find that these funds are ad hoc and they just, they're a stopgap, little bits of research here and there. If you think of places like Cambridge, for example, they need to be able to find research so they can find out or get enough money for research so they can know even how to handle diseases like sickle cells that have been there for a long time, HIV, AIDS, which really need to be addressed. So again, providing subsidies and frameworks for partnerships, this is very important between public and private institutions, really addresses the shortfall of 1, research, and 2, innovations. Because I know funding follows innovations. Where funders are interested in a particular innovation, they tend to be able to also present the necessary funds that are required for that. So, Madam Speaker, I support this motion. I think also possibilities of bringing a bill or amending a particular maybe existing legislation would be very key, so that now this becomes something that is entrenched in legislation and can be followed through in institutions. I support, Madam Speaker.
I see no further requests, and I therefore call upon the mover to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank you again for this opportunity, and I beg to reply and appreciate the interventions that the senators have contributed to this important motion. And I know without a fact that we must push as a Senate to get this motion realized. There's no question that innovation and entrepreneurship is the way of the future. And we can see, as you've heard from one of the senators, Senator Wambua, that other countries have actually adopted it and have made it mainstream. And now we are feeling a bit left behind because we have Kenyans are extremely innovative, they're extremely creative, and we need to protect them. We need to embrace them and celebrate them. And I know Senator Faria would have mentioned about patenting our discoveries so that we can celebrate our inventions and help them, to innovate further, and we can begin to look towards being an industrialized country. So, Madam Speaker, I'm grateful for the interventions that have been made, and I'm looking forward to a positive vote towards this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I rule that this is not a matter that affects counties, and therefore proceed to put the question. That aware that early childhood education and village polytechnics are a function of the county government, secondary schools, universities, tertiary institutions, and other institutions of research, a function of the national government under the 4th schedule of the Constitution. Further aware that institutions of higher learning have 2 basic functions, teaching and conducting research. Concerned that such institutions largely concentrate on teaching rather than research is a method of enhancing and imparting the practical application of skills, attitude, and knowledge of learners. Noting that funds allocated towards community and development-oriented academic research are neither sustainable nor adequate, acknowledging that various national policies on research and innovations are available, but fragmentation in the sector has shortchanged the vision of a progressive national research agenda, thereby emboldening low science culture among the population, low global competitiveness ranking, inadequate funding, and poor linkages between academic research and commercial industry. Now, therefore, the Senate urgently calls upon the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology to, 1, to provide a comprehensive report from all institutions of higher learning on the status and performance of research and innovation programs in the country. 2, reassess sector policies and develop new work plans towards A, improving allocation of funds for academic as well as sustainable community-based research to public institutions of higher learning. B, providing subsidies and frameworks for partnership between public and private institutions of higher learning to enable collaboration and better organization in research and innovations for community county development projects. As many of that opinion say aye, as many of the contrary opinion say nay, the ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 14, motion. need for staff rationalization in counties.
Senator Agnezane.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to move that, aware that the Senate represents counties and serves to protect the interests of the counties and their governments, further aware that the launch of Capacity Assessment and Rationalization of the Public Service CAPS program was launched by the Intergovernmental Steering Committee, IGSC, on 14th July 2014, with the objective of transforming the public service for efficient and effective service delivery at both levels of government. Noting that the implementation timelines for the CAPS program of 2 years, specifically with regard to the capacity assessment, workload analysis, and staff redeployment and transfers, are of paramount importance in the counties as the terms of all second-term county governors come to a close in 2022. Concerned that county governments are still engaged in uncontrolled hiring of staff in total violation of applicable laws, exposing a glaring imbalance between money spent on recurrent expenditure versus budgets for development projects, which are the essence of devolution. Concerned further that contrary to Section 15(2)(b) of the Public Finance Management PFM Act, in counties such as Nairobi, Machakos, Garissa, Kisumu, Wajir, Baringo, Narok, Nakuru, and Nyamira, staff salaries consumed in excess of 75% of total expenditure, over and above the set limit of 35% as provided in Regulation 25(1) of the Public Finance Management County Governments Regulations 2015, and during the financial year 2018-2019, deeply concerned that although Section 65 of the County Governments Act requires that more than 30% of the vacancies at the entry level be given to members of ethnic groups that are not dominant in their precincts, the 2016 Ethnic Diversity Audit launched by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission revealed that 68% of counties have hired more than 70% of their staff from one ethnic group. Now, therefore, in exercise of its oversight function, the Senate resolves that the Public Service Commission, PSC, Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, IGTRC, and the Council of Governors provide a comprehensive report on 1. The progress and implementation status of the capacity assessment and rationalization of the public service CAPS program, indicating the county governments and indicating that the county governments that are compliant, and 2, the number of employees in each county government, showing the amount spent as wage bill vis-a-vis recurrent expenditure budget for the financial year 2018-2019, and submit these reports to the Senate within 20 days of this resolution. Madam Speaker, as you are aware, this is an issue that we've dealt with for the longest time in Senate. Really, that in the counties, we found that as per the Constitution, the provisions for what the Constitution has put into place to ensure that we actually have a balanced rationalization.
Order, Senator Zani. Order, senators. Honorable senators, it is now 6:30. Honorable Zani, you'll have a balance of 17 minutes. It is now 6:30 p.m., time to adjourn the House. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until Tuesday, 9th July 2019 at 2:30 p.m.